Good morning. It is Tuesday, November 26th, 2019. It's 34 degrees and clear right now across Westchester. Welcome to the morning show with Bob Marrone, or Mornings with Bob Marrone, more properly said. I am Bob Marrone. You're listening to Radio Westchester live at the New Rochelle train station. We're here each and every day from 6 to 10. Welcome to the program, at least Monday through Friday. We're here. Our top story this morning, an accident involving 7 to 8 tractor-trailers closes eastbound I-84. That happened earlier this morning. Here in New Rochelle, DiRienzo meets with school officials, but the football coach's situation is up in the air. As Talk of the Sound put it, the coach who talked with them yesterday said he has no idea if he's coaching the championship game. A letter from the Interreligious Council of New Rochelle, and this is an opinion. It seems ill-timed, mean-spirited, and, well, we'll say more about that during our monologue in a little while. And the Masons' $32 bid for the College of New Rochelle has been received. A lot going on a national level, a lot going on here in New Rochelle. But first we go to Chris Conway with the weather. Chris, good morning.
Good morning. The Masons' bid was $32.
Did I say that?
Yes.
$32 million, okay?
I was going to say.
Fine?
Because I bid $4.
Good.
Thought maybe I had a shot.
Wow. Just wait till 6:30. I didn't sleep last night.
Yeah.
This rarely has a news story. I mean, Trump keeps me up months.
Sure. But
this is the first time a local story kept me up.
Wow.
It kept me up.
And 6:30, we're going to hear about it?
Till 1 o'clock, you bet. Thanks. Go ahead.
It is 35 degrees here in New Rochelle. Today will be mostly sunny, a really nice day. Temperatures will get up near 60 degrees. Tonight, clear, low 40s. Tomorrow, they call Getaway Wednesday, the busiest travel day of the year. Scattered showers. In the afternoon, it'll be in the mid-50s. Thanksgiving, mix of sun and clouds, 48 degrees. Friday, it will be cold, especially if you're one of those crazy people who goes out at 4 in the morning to get those stores, because it'll be in the 20s until sunrise.
Do you think I have any sympathy for anybody who gets up at 4 in the morning? I tell you, I meant to give that to you.
No tears shed in this room.
No
for
tears.
People
No, sorry. I gotta get up.
Who voluntarily get up.
Tell me that.
Weather is brought to you exclusively by United Hebrew of New Rochelle, voted one of America's best rehabilitation and senior care campuses. It's right here in New Rochelle. Visit uhgc.com. And I'm Chris Conway for Radio Westchester.
Thank you very much, Chris. We get straight into those news stories. Once again, this is the news for Tuesday, November 26th, just a couple of days till Thanksgiving, and all the mad rushing begins. One of these years, I'm going to the mountains and burying myself in a hut for the holidays. All righty. Let's get to those stories. So this happened eastbound on Interstate I-84 earlier this morning between the town of Wallkill, and Maybrook. It was shut down following an accident at exit 5. So if you're taking that route, you have been warned. The accident first reported about 3:33. You know, when I see 3:30 a.m., wow, it was really last night. No, it's only an hour and a half ago. No, you know what I mean? Oh, look, this happened yesterday. No, it happened at 3:30, an hour and a half ago. Had multiple victims and trapped, sadly, according to emergency radio communications. About a half hour later, I-84 connections to Route 17 in the town of Wallkill were closed to traffic. There is no word yet as to injuries or what caused it, and as soon as we know, we will let you know. This came out of News 12, but also Associated Press people helped with that story. So once again, if you're stuck behind anything up by I-84 and 7 to 8 tractor trailers accident there. So you have been warned. Meanwhile, the big story here in New Rochelle is whether or not the coach will get to coach Sunday, or I guess it's a week from Sunday now, for the big game, the state championship up at the Carrier Dome. New Rochelle High School head football. This is amazing, because of the Klieg light. My age is showing. I can't see my news copy. All right, this out of Aloha Today and Talk of the Sound. New Rochelle High School head football coach Lou DiRienzo met with district officials yesterday, but no decision was reached on the reassignment that has kept him off the sidelines. Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Laura Fejo, in a statement said the school board will be briefed tonight, and that was last night, on the discussion but no decision is expected, at least as of last night. As you know, DiRienzo was reassigned November 13. The Huguenots will play in the Class A or AA state championship on Sunday in Syracuse after winning 2 playoff games without their head coach at the helm. The game is 3 p.m. at the Carrier Dome. Following the meeting with school officials, DiRienzo said he had no idea. Again, that was the meeting yesterday, and that's what we're reporting. No idea if he would coach in the state championship. Now, again, put it in the proper time perspective, Chris. That meeting was held yesterday afternoon with the coach, 6 hours. And last night they were supposed to do some, if you will, ruminating and the board getting together. Now, the piece out of the Talk of the Sound by Bob Cox, who was a regular contributor to this program, he was given almost exclusive reactions from the coach yesterday. And the coach said, and we quote, when asked if he would coach, he said, "I have no idea," said Coach DiRienzo when asked by reporters as he left City Hall whether he would be coaching in the New York State Championship. They meet McQuaid Jesuit High School on Sunday at 3 p.m. Now, Mr. DiRienzo's attorney said that, quote, "We are very happy the district agreed to meet with us today. We've been waiting to have a meeting with the district for Coach DiRienzo so he could speak with them. There have been some developments, but I'm not at liberty to share them right now." Now, something we'll be talking about when we go to break. And it is something that kept me up last night because this is a very well-respected organization. The Interreligious Council of New Rochelle issued a statement on the controversial superintendent. And I will just say this for now, Chris. I admire that organization greatly. I was fairly close with the man who founded it, Rabbi Amel Wall. I admire everything they do, but they got this wrong, in my view, and we'll talk about it at 6:30. They got this wrong for good and the best of intentions, probably, but they got it wrong. More importantly, their comments seemed, and I'll just go this far, opportunistic and mean-spirited. And in football, we call it piling on. And the Masons have been the subject of world takeover conspiracies, but for now, they'll only be taking over the former College of New Rochelle, and this in Lohud today, nicely written by Mark Lingariello. The group, also called Freemasons, will buy the 15.6-acre campus for $32 million. It has been approved after its winning bid was approved in bankruptcy court yesterday. The trustee of the Masonic Hall and Asylum Fund won an auction for the property last week, bidding $11 million for more than opening offer, as reported by, for more than the opening offer. They call that a stalking horse, as reported by the Journal News. So that is going to happen. Now, the trustees, I know you were just asking folks, and I heard you talking to their computers or looking into the screen. The trustees operate a senior health care campus and campground in Oneida County, according to their website, and maintain the DeWitt House, George Washington's headquarters and historic site in Tappan. They also administer operation of the Grand Lodge building of the New York State Masonic Fraternity, located at West 23rd Street, kind of like the Royal Order of Raccoons. And you get to go around Indian Point. A 67-year-old Edgemont woman is dead after she was hit by a car on Friday. The woman, who was not identified by authorities, was struck by a 2014 Acura MDX shortly after 6 p.m. and rushed to Westchester Medical Center. She died later that evening from her injuries. The Acura was turning onto Fort Hill Road from Underhill Road in the hamlet of Edgemont when the accident occurred. The 49-year-old driver of the vehicle stopped and called 911. No passengers were injured. Accident investigations were conducted by the Greenburgh Police, and it continues to be under investigation. It is 6:21. Well, someone else has joined the race. As you remember yesterday, Chris, we had on a very interesting young woman who has put her name, Ms. Castleberry Hernandez, in the hat for the 17th District. We have another one in the race, according to Loha today. A former prosecutor in the Operation Varsity Blues college admission scandal will join the crowded Democratic field to replace longtime Representative Nita Lowey. Adam Scheffer, 38, of Chappaqua, will be the sixth candidate when he officially launches his campaign in a reliably blue district that will change hands after Lowey's retirement next year. So can't make that one up. I think it's going to be like the presidential race. I'm thinking of running myself. What do you think of that?
A stage with like 18 candidates debating.
With me the shortest, yeah. Okay. This out of New Rochelle, kind of a nice story. Good Times actor John Amos partnered with New Rochelle with a teacher to share a powerful message with students. The students weren't even born when Amos made his name in the 70s TV show Good Times and the iconic drama Roots, but his message spans all generations. He wrote a book about acts of kindness. And New Rochelle teacher Lisa Figaro says it's an important lesson that she tries to bring to her classroom. She translated Amos's book to reach more children, including those in the Ward Elementary School. Now, Chris, you know a lot about these hoaxes that have left different Hudson Valley schools closed at different times. Well, it turns out that that's costing these districts money. This out of News 12 today. A fake phone call about a gunman at Felix Festa Middle School led to money and manpower wasted at the expense of taxpayers, and that's one they've used as an example. Roughly 100 officers responded to the Clarkstown school last week after a call claimed there was a gunman. It cost $17,000. So think of all the different events that have taken place and just fake gun shootings and school attacks and bomb shootings, and you get the message. I'm still upset over all the Pelham cops they need to give me an hour delay every day when I try and go anywhere on Lincoln Avenue. Where the Pelham cops aren't out on the beat, they're just supervising construction processes in the streets of that godforsaken town. I got to get the guy that runs that town on the show. I know it's totally unfair. It's just me being a child. All right, it is 6:23. You're listening to Radio Westchester. This is the station at the news at the train station. All right, lawmakers are asking the governor to put brakes on changing the STAR program. I didn't know he wanted to change it until I did the research this morning. This out of News 12. The STAR program is a popular government subsidy that lowers taxes for homeowners and has been through a series of changes over the year. Carla Presti of New City, though, doesn't know a lot about the program, but she just knows she likes it. That's the message state lawmakers are also hearing from their constituents. State lawmakers are concerned that 2020 will bring even more change to STAR, and with that, more confusion. And they're saying, please, no more changes. For instance, last year, the state required seniors to enroll in an income verification program to get their rebates. That's a little onerous, but it does seem fair. Yeah. I mean, what if I go and get a job that actually pays a living wage and I won't be entitled to it anymore? And Chris, this next one is for you. Guess what today is?
What is today?
National Cake Day.
I'm listening. Keep going.
Yeah, I don't know.
Details?
As you well know, I much prefer buns. I'm just saying, like crumb buns. So your mind went where it should not have gone. Am I right?
I don't know. Hanging out with you the last couple of weeks, I don't know where my mind's going anymore.
All righty, Chris. What we're going to do is bring you to another traffic thing, and then we'll go right into sport. I said traffic again. Weather. Traffic doesn't start till next week. There you go. There's your rather solemn music. And what's the weather out there?
Right now, it is 34 degrees in New Rochelle. Today, it will be really nice, seasonably mild, sunny. High of 58.
Good morning, fellas.
Wednesday, or in the evening. In the evening, it'll be 42 degrees and clear. Tomorrow, scattered showers, highs in the mid-50s. Thursday, Thanksgiving Day, I've heard. Mix of sun and clouds, high 48. Friday, Black Friday, sunny but cold, highs only in the low 40s. Weather is brought to you exclusively by United Hebrew of New Rochelle. Voted one of America's best rehabilitation and senior care campuses. It's right here in New Rochelle. Visit uhgc.com. And I'm Chris Conway for Radio Westchester.
Chris, we had our first homeless person visit us. We probably should have closed the door. But he was very nice about it. He said, hello, fellas. And I had to remind him that we were on the air. What a perfect time to do sports. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, last night, Matt Zuccarello returned to Madison Square Garden as a member of the Minnesota Wild, his first game back. But it was the Rangers who stole the show. They tied the game with under 3 minutes to go in the third period and got a goal 30 seconds into OT by Tony DeAngelo. They defeated Minnesota 3-2. Henrik Lundqvist got the win. He moves now into fifth place alone all time on the NHL goaltender wins chart with 455. In the NBA, Brooklyn defeated Cleveland 108-106. Monday Night Football, I wondered if Jake liked the Rams after seeing this score. Baltimore 45,
Flogging.
Rams 6. Lamar Jackson.
This Lamar Jackson's the real deal of the new era of quarterback, isn't he?
He is.
Although my favorite's Mahomes.
The question is, though, these running quarterbacks, can they take the pounding and have a long career?
No.
If they're gonna take off and get tackled like a running back 10 times a game.
And do they take it once they come out of the pocket? Are they fair game? Do you know?
They are, unless the quarterback can slide feet first and
He's
give
allowed
himself
to
up.
do that.
Yes.
See, now if they're going to run, they shouldn't be allowed to do that.
Well, you got to keep the quarterbacks in the game because
No.
if you watch a football game with bad quarterbacks, with backup quarterbacks,
Yeah,
it's unwatchable.
but then that's unfair. Just give me a running quarterback. It's like having an untouchable.
Well, that's what they do now. I mean, Baltimore, Kansas City, a lot of teams have these quarterbacks that will just take off, and it's working for them. I mean,
Well, of course, it's work. You've got to be. I'm sorry. You got. If we make a rule in my beloved sport, hockey, and the goalie is allowed to skate into the play, oh baby, you know, no. What? You know, they're right. The critics are right. Why don't the quarterbacks wear skirts?
I don't know. I disagree. You cannot have. The NFL is such a big business. You cannot have quarterbacks getting hurt.
Well, then you can't have them. Maybe they can't go out. Maybe more 10 yards from the line of scrimmage. They shouldn't go out past the first down line. I just made that new rule. Pretty good, right?
It's actually a terrible rule.
Why?
Lamar Jackson, for example, is the most exciting player in football.
He should be
You
pounded.
can't blow the whistle as soon as he runs 10 yards.
Come on, Lamar. Let's go.
All right, Bob is now fighting the microphone. If you're watching
I've been
online,
fighting the microphone
That's
for
true.
50
Metaphorically,
years.
yes.
Come on. Really? No, you can't have a free pass. Oh, I'm going to slide. Why? How nice. Go ahead.
Tonight, just one local in action.
Tonight.
The New Jersey Devils host Minnesota, continuing their tri-state area
The Devils.
road trip.
Boy, do they stink.
No, that's been a disaster. They thought they'd be good this year.
Well, they
but
had
nope.
a couple of good pickups. They have their rookie, and they forget this. They need to get this kid in the minors yesterday because he is a great draft pick who's going to be great. But not everybody's. The kid is smaller than me. No, and that's not usually a problem because
Talking
in
about
hockey,
Jack Hughes?
no, in hockey there are a lot of really smaller but they're muscular players who can get a lot done. And then there's an exception like the kid, not DeBrincat, he's muscular. There's the exception, the kid from New Jersey on Calgary. But this kid is like, he's like a child.
Yeah, I mean, he's only 18.
No, and he's not supposed to. This isn't a criticism. This is a criticism of management. Send him up to Binghamton. All right, let him get big minutes, play regular. What does he have? A goal? 2 goals? What has he got?
Yeah, the numbers are not good.
You look it up. He'll let us know. See, Kako's already 6'2". He's got a man's body. Played against men. He's not a pipsqueak. And look, I'm a pipsqueak. I get that. But I also have a little bit of bulk from it's cake day.
That's true.
What else is going on in the weather? I mean, traffic. I mean,
In the sports, that's it. Minnesota at the Devils, the only local in action tonight.
Do you like boxing?
No,
I get in a
not
lot
really.
of trouble for this because I've always liked boxing as a sport because it's the ultimate one-on-one.
Yeah.
But when you think about it, it is pretty barbaric.
It is.
You know, I wonder about
Yep,
that.
the goal to knock people out by punching them in the head.
I wonder about me. Guess what time it is? It's 6:30, and we're going to
here
move
we
ahead
go.
in a moment and talk about my little monologue. But it'll be heartfelt. I don't want to be mean-spirited about it. But today's program is brought to you, the top of the hour is brought to you by the United Hebrew of New Rochelle, the top-rated campus of senior care. Visit uhgc.com. Aging Issues Management and Aging Issues Radio, the law firm of Payne & Kahn, Plug-in Virtual Reality, and Dominic's Cigars. They support our football picks. Dominic's Fine Cigars, licensed retailer with a big selection, including Arturo Fuente, Padrons, and more. Dominic's Fine Cigars, located at 204 Boston Post Road in Larchmont. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be back in less than 60 seconds. Alrighty, we're headed for the bottom of the hour. It is 6:32. Thank you so very much for listening to Radio Westchester. This is Mornings with Bob Marrone. And I know we saw a call or two come through, but after the monologue, we will open the calls. This is Mornings with Bob Marrone. I am he. It is 34 degrees. Chris, is it clear or cloudy?
It is clear. It's going to be clear all day.
Clear as a bell, getting up to like 60 today. Well, do enjoy the day. And as I hinted before, and I wasn't kidding, last night, and I see your calls coming in. We will get to the calls, but we've got to wait, and I got to get on the record with this. And this is the honest to God's truth. Every so often, as a result of doing what we do, there were things that happened during Obama's administration. There were things that have happened during the administration of President Trump, and other things that have caused me to lose sleep. And the only reason I say that is that's how much they affected me. Enough to have me ask myself, Chris, why do I do this? Because justice, honesty, equality in the sense of fair play, it's what drives me. It's why I decided to do the radio in the first place. I wanted to do it all my life. And so I've been following the case of Coach DiRienzo. And this is all the best of intentions for the coach. I'd love to see him coach that game. I'd want him to be treated fairly. But what's ironic and what's happening in this case, Chris, is that all of the things that people are concerned about with respect to the coach, okay, sometimes the attitude, which sometimes borders on becoming a mob, all right, is exactly what they're saying they are doing to the superintendent, what they're accusing the superintendent of doing to the coach. She's in the job 2 weeks, okay? 2 weeks and change. She made a decision, and we may find out that it's very wrong, rightly or wrongly, okay? But people don't want to wait for the truth. They don't want to know what it is that the superintendent is evaluating with respect to Mr. DiRienzo. And it may turn out, and we'll be the first to call her on it, if it turns out that it was a nothing burger, she may have to, I don't know how they handle such things, but, you know, she will really be on a short leash. You know, maybe she'll have to take a walk. But I want to read something that you already know the history of this, right? And most people listening do. What we do know and what is public information, and we've talked about it extensively with Bob Cox, and we certainly have given Mr. DiRienzo every benefit of the doubt, and certainly Bob is on our air has articulated it better than anyone, including the conversation and analysis over an internal combat or internal problem that may exist between the coach and members of the medical department at the school. So let's get into what kept me up last night. I was glad that he met. I was glad that he and the superintendent spent, or whomever he met with, spent 6 hours. And I'm hopeful the coach may actually be there Sunday. But there's been this mood since Fejo was announced there has been this sense since she was announced, there's a minority in the city that wants to get rid of her regardless, all because she sued the city of New York, feeling that she was discriminated against because she was white. Now, a lot of people feel, including some people in high office here locally, that the optics of that is one reason why a city coming out of the Valerie Schwab issue, a city coming out of, or as diverse as we are, with a large Latino population and a large black population, or reasonably large black population, that we ought not to have someone embroiled in such a lawsuit. So let's put that over here and let's isolate that. True enough. But the qualifications, A, she has. B, she's a woman, she's a minority. C, she's proposed and executed many liberal policies, some of which I don't totally agree with, but who am I? So out comes this letter at the height of the crises, where this woman is under attack. And she's under attack without any justification other than this thing over here, and call it a justification if you will. It's a pretext, and perhaps a valid one for optics. But put that over here. And this letter came out, and Bob Cox, covering things so well as he does, published it. And this came out of the Interreligious Council of New Rochelle, and they issued a statement. And according to this, they issued it on November 21st, a few days ago, at the height of this issue now with the coach, where, say what you will, the superintendent is taking a beating over him, marches, everything else. This is the Interreligious Council, this wonderful, and they are a wonderful organization, historically, founded by a man I adored, Rabbi Amel Wall, who's now deceased. And I take what they say seriously, and I do here too. And I even defer to them in terms of, I'm sure they're well-intended. But listen up. To the Board of Education of the City District of New Rochelle. Over the course of the past few years, the City of New Rochelle and its school district have been through a tumultuous time. We needn't recount these events here. As with any organization, the school district's track record on how these matters were handled produced a mixed set of results. In hindsight, surely the district could have handled certain aspects differently than they had been. Of course. One outcome of all of this was the choice to hire a new superintendent of schools. As the Interreligious Council made clear over the summer to your board, the process by which this choice was made was a flawed one. Perhaps. That's me saying that. More importantly, the choice of the new superintendent, Dr. Fejo, was one which this body did not support. Her selection, considering all that has transpired here in New Rochelle, was the epitome of being tone deaf to our community needs. The CSDNR deserved a leader, that's the district, who could begin on her first day with a resume filled with academic rigor. She has that. Administrative strength, she has that. As well as unquestioned, as well as a unquestioned reputation, most especially as regards diversity. What did she do wrong regarding that except defend herself? This is not the case with Dr. Fejo. I disagree, by the way, but we'll get to that. The Interreligious Council of New Rochelle is the only organization in this city that approximates the diversity of our school district. Nice that they patted themselves on the back. We represent peoples of every faith, color, ethnicity, background, and we are gravely concerned about the impact Dr. Fejo will have on our district. We are therefore, now this is coming out during the height of the crisis with the football coach. We are therefore similarly concerned about the future of the district, preserving its diversity and cultivating it as a strength for its future. What and how does this woman, other than her lawsuit, how does it affect the diversity of this city? Will someone tell me? This choice pains the members of this council. Well, your letter pains me. The community, and most importantly, the children in this district who feel that this choice disregards all they have been through in recent years. Have they polled these children? This council wants you to know that while we could not compel you to change your mind and rescind your choice, as would have been the prudent, thoughtful, and caring thing to do, so says the council, we will be watching. Really? Good. Maybe they should be looking skyward a little more. In the past, this council has been called upon in myriad ways to support this district. We consider ourselves as being newly deputized to keep watch over Dr. Fayos' performance and to call to light any violation of the values set forth by the district and our own mission statement. The district should be aware that we will closely be monitoring curricular changes, staff hires, dismissals, and policy changes. Really. Any deviation from what we feel to be the best practices will result in renewed calls for Dr. Fayos' dismissal. Why don't they use a rope? As always has been the case, the IRC is here to help. We are here to help you. Help the district fulfill its mandate. We ask that you call upon us to help shape the future of the district. We look forward, and this is the part I liked, we look forward to having an opportunity to hear from this board and the superintendent after you've already judged her, as we have done in the past, and more urgently that you come to hear from us that both you and Dr. Fajo will be clear on our expectations for our children's future. Respectfully disappointed. Now, I'm going to read the list of people that put their name to this. My name's Bob Marrone, by the way, and you can reach me at bobmarrone@radiowestchester.com. Rabbi Scott Wiener, President, Temple Israel. Mark McLean, Vice President. And I want you to put a light on that one because the number 2 guy in the organization is one of the people who's been leading rallies regarding, which right now, as much as I like Mr. McLean personally, right now it taints this because he's a player in the issue. Okay. Family Christian Center. Caroline Coppola, Recording Secretary, Iona College. Kate Maria, Corresponding Secretary, Holy Family Church. Pastor Tom Buchanan, Presbyterian Church of New Rochelle. George Morris, Immediate Past President. Ray League Catholic Youth Community, Father Robert Gaylor, another wonderful man, Past President. Trinity St. Paul's Episcopal Church. Carl Precario Foley, PhD, Past President. Iona College, at-large board members, Nazif Jashid, Islamic Center of New Rochelle, Barry Stallworth, Shiloh Baptist Church, Marjorie Seidenfeld, Bethel Synagogue, Kathy Clark, Holy Family Church, Kate Maria, Holy Family Church, Deb Wood, Empty Hand Zen Center, Elaine Weiss, Temple Israel of New Rochelle, Frank Orlando, Blessed Sacrament Church, Sister Pat Shafini, the Ursuline School, Pastor Greg Baldio, Seventh-day Adventist Church of New Rochelle, Maria Scaros, Holy Trinity Greek Orthodox Church, Fred Muldvaranian, no disrespect there, Fred Muldvaran Bahil of New Rochelle. My name is Bob Marrone. Now, I'm going to say this respectfully submitted, sad. This wonderful organization, and you are, this is opportunistic that this should come out during the debate over an issue that is totally unrelated to what Ms. Fajo has done in her career, totally unrelated to the issue. And look, I understand the issue of her having sued the school district. I dismiss out of hand the kind of rhetoric that I've heard that a white person is not allowed to say that they were discriminated against. Do I understand the optics? Sure, but shy of the optics, why now? Why now when this whole thing is going on? Because you, and with all due respect, I know you have the best of intentions, and this is a wonderful organization, or it has been. But coming down on the superintendent 2 weeks into the job right now because of the issue of the coach, okay, is one, opportunistic, two, mean-spirited, and for a religious organization to be mean-spirited is sad. Three, it's piling on. Let's see what happens. If after this issue with the coach is adjudicated and it shows that Dr. Fajo is not competent for some reason, I'll be the first one screaming over here. But I'm disappointed. And the folks at the Interreligious Council, and again, I have a great deal of respect for you. I really do, and I have for years. And Rabbi Amar Wall was a regular on my programs, a man I can honestly say I love the guy, and I loved everything the Interreligious Council stands for and still do. You got it wrong this time. Even if you got some of the facts right and some of the assertions you've made, the stuff that you put down about the qualifications that the person ought to have, she has every one. And for all of the women listening and watching, do you no longer have standing? Is the Interreligious Council, as many women that are on that board, are you slipping because a woman doesn't happen to be a woman of color or because she defended herself, she's no longer a minority? That's all I have to say. It's a sad day. If you wanted to send that letter out, that letter should have gone out after this, or maybe you sent it out and I didn't see it in the summertime. And this is why I do this. You know, I didn't make a lot of friends with this, and I don't like throwing an organization I have traditionally loved under the bus. But you got it wrong. You got it wrong. And I will tell you what I do believe. It's not an alternate universe. And I may be very wrong, but this is based on my experience. Look, in the perfect world, if I were just being political, I'd have whispered into the ear of Amy Mazelli when she hired Fayho, and all I was concerned about was politics. You know, some of the folks in town aren't going to like this because she, white people, white girl taking, suing because she was passed over is not going to fly in our city. And in a city, by the way, most of its racial tensions of recent years have been agitated by the very people who are pining, with great justification in many cases, but who are pining for racial equality because of grades and violence and things of that nature, which, again, one has to respect. But really, Dr. Fayho is not a minority, evidently. She hasn't been a major administrator and educator all her career. What I submit, perhaps, and again, see, I'm out on the record. I may be proved wrong. She may turned out to be the worst thing since sliced bread gone, what's it called when it's green, moldy. And you'll have at me. I'm here every day. Everybody knows where to find me. But this is the kind of story that we all should pay attention to, and I'm going to take it another step further as we pass through 648. One of the great frustrations of doing this for a living in the past few years is false narratives. Now, at least this isn't a false narrative. You came and put what you felt on paper. But we have to live in a world where every day now I need to get up and look at the news, and we have a major party of the United States pretending that something that happened didn't happen. I can go toggle forth back to the right or left and be just as frustrated by either of the extremes. We have a party that's trying to pretend that Ukraine, an enemy of Russia, Chris, you can't make it up. No wonder I couldn't sleep. That they, as incompetent and troubled and at war with Russia as they are, that they really hacked the election, and that we should have contempt for our own intelligence services, that we should have contempt for our own diplomats. Again, the president gets to set the policy, but what's so is so. Some days it's very hard to do. And a little fairness, a little justice, and of all the places and peoples that I was hoping or would hope to see some balance from, it would have been the Interreligious Council. Rabbi Amar Wall, wherever you are up there, you must be amused. Anyway, that's what I have to say. To 650, the phones are open, 914-222-3141. You don't have to agree. You can have at me. You be respectful to me. I'll be respectful to you. All voices are welcome. 222-3141. 222-3141. Here's Chris Conway with the weather.
Good morning. It is 34 degrees along the Sound Shore. Really nice day coming up today. It'll be sunny. Highs approaching 60 degrees. Tonight, clear in the low 40s. Tomorrow, the busiest travel day of the year, there'll be some scattered showers, mostly in the afternoon. highs in the mid-50s. Thanksgiving, a mix of sun and clouds, highs in the upper 40s. Friday, Black Friday, will be sunny but cold with highs only reaching the low 40s. Weather is brought to you exclusively by United Hebrew of New Rochelle, voted one of America's best rehabilitation and senior care campuses. It's right here in New Rochelle. Visit uhgc.com. And I'm Chris Conway for Radio Westchester.
Thank you very much, Chris. As we come up on 6:50, let's take a look at what's coming up today. But first, the bottom of the hour is brought to you by the United Hebrew of New Rochelle, a top-rated campus of senior care. Visit uhgc.com. Aging Issues Management, the law firm of Pena & Kahn. Plug in virtual reality and Dominic's Cigars. Dominic's Fine Cigars, licensed retailer with a big selection, including Arturo Fuente, Padrones, and more. Dominic's Fine Cigars, located at 204 Boston Post Road in Larchmont. They're open 7 days. And today's program, of course, we're going to take calls on that issue and anything else you'd like to talk about. Coming up at 7:20, Mike Edelin, political analyst. 7:35, Mike Duffy. He's our defense attorney and go-to guy. What did I write here? I'm looking at the wrong card. Oh, my goodness. I get myself all wound up when I do this. Fell off. Yeah, here it is. Mike Duffy. Then at 8:20, Del Husler. He is the publisher of the Yonkers Insider. A.J. Woodson, Black Westchester Magazine. And at 9 o'clock, we're going to talk with Jack Breslin, professor at Iona College. And as we get ready for the holiday, I'm sorry. I'm glad that I did it because it's why I do radio and it doesn't make me right. But I'm sorry to have such a troubling, if you will, monologue as we head towards the holiday. But, this is how mobs get going and lynchings happen. And when I say lynching, I mean it metaphorically. We've got Fayhu dead before she even got out of the box. That's my take. All righty, let's see who's on the telephone. Good morning. You're on Radio Westchester. Thank you for calling.
Hey, Bob. How you doing? This is Vince.
Hey, Vince. What's going on?
Well, you've pretty much hit it on the head. This interreligious council, so-called, is really nothing more than a left-wing political organization.
Has it always been thus?
It has been for many years. You may remember that when there was a discussion of whether we were going to have school resource officers, there was a committee that was formed, a Culture and Climate Committee under the Board of Ed that had meetings about it. Well, when Mr. Daniela was given the opportunity to present the positive side of SROs, Rabbi Scott Wiener was given a special opportunity to speak at that meeting in opposition, representing the Interreligious Council. Now, he gets a special dispensation because of, I guess, his political power and connections. And, of course, Minister Mark McLean. But, using religion as a front for a political action committee, which is really what this is about, is well-founded in American politics. We've seen this.
But we see it on a national level. But also, if I may just add to this and get your reaction to it, the timing of it is what troubles me during this unadjudicated crises right now.
Well, you see, Bob, what you're witnessing is the ascension, growth, and recognition of the extreme far left in our community, in Westchester and in New York State. If you were to take a step back and look at some of the recent laws enacted, regulations enacted, this is politics of ugliness. Politics of, if you disagree with me, you're a racist. You do not have the right to speak as a white person if you feel you're a victim of discrimination. This is very dangerous stuff, but because people don't vote, because people don't pay attention, groups like this, which sound very friendly, the Interreligious Council. Oh my goodness, what a lovely group of people. Well, you got to scratch the surface. But, the other thing that you have to take a look at here, Bob, You remember the petition that was filed that went to the commissioner seeking to overturn the appointment, saying that the school board acted illegally.
Yes.
All right? It had nothing to do with the racial aspects of this, although it colored the petition, excuse the pun. But here's the thing. I have a feeling, given that there's a little tip of the hat by the far left people in our community, maybe the mayor himself, but the mayor's friends, this group, all of these active groups which want this lady out, I would suspect that the commissioner up in Albany, who normally does nothing with these petitions, is going to say, yeah, you're right.
You know what? I wouldn't worry about that. The commissioner up in Albany has less of a spine than the controller.
Exactly, and that's why he's going to be tipped politically.
Yeah, but if they weren't going to act in East Ramapo, they won't act here.
Oh, well, of course they can't act in East Ramapo because the same group that pushes East Ramapo to discriminate against the kids up there, this is the same group down here. You gotta look at the political
I hear you.
I
hear you.
Group is very powerful.
But on what grounds could they remove this woman? And by the way, if I may just add something, as a guy who's been left of center for most of his adult life, is Feo not a woman? Is she not a woman that came up in a male-dominated?
Doesn't matter, Bob. Doesn't matter. She's the victim of the day. Doesn't matter, but what I'm saying is the same political forces that do not allow you to touch Ramapo are the same political forces in New Rochelle that now say, hey, Albany, go ahead, overrule, our school board screwed up, and we know it, fix it for us. And now that the Interreligious Council has tipped their hand as to where they are, the NAACP, the boys in Albany are going to be given the green light to get the board off the hook.
And by the way, there's another conflict of interest there. With all due respect to Minister McLean, he's the number 2 guy on the Interreligious Council. He's the head of the NAACP, and he has been leading demonstrations against this woman.
It's look, First Amendment, people have a right to say whatever they want.
You bet. You bet. And I had a right to come out at 6:30 this morning and call them out on it.
Well, you're absolutely right, and you'll be vilified for it, as others have.
Let them
stand up against this kind of naked power. But this is our community now, Bob. But one last thing, if I could, I don't know if you have the moment.
Yeah, go ahead.
There's going to be a public hearing in City Hall, December 10th. Very important. For the folks in town who have been railing against this ridiculous garbage fee, which was supposed to be temporary, there is a brand new fee being proposed by Louis Aragon and the mayor to pay for our sewer department, all sewer repairs, and importantly in the legislation, for all future expansion. In other words, every homeowner and property owner is now going to be assessed an extra fee, and we have no idea how many hundreds of dollars this could be a year or more, and it could go up with no limit to help our developers in town. Now, this is, my Democratic friends say, corporate America is ripping off the public. Well, Mayor Bramson is in bed with the corporate powers that are taking our town, and he is now putting the cost of all the sewer expansion on the backs of all of the property owners.
Now, do you know, is this...
On top of the 2% tax hike.
Hold on. Now, is this... Are you talking about the extra water tax that'll be appended on the outflow of water, or are you talking about even something more? Yeah, that's because we broke that story about a month ago, actually here.
No, but in the legislation there was no limitation on the fee.
Didn't know that. Wow.
No limitation. And this is the kind of thing that really pisses people off. But it only pisses people off who pay attention. And the mayor and the folks that are going to run our town, they know most people out there are just brain dead when it comes to their public civic duty. I hate to say it in my old age.
Don't call yourself old. You got a young daughter.
The Interreligious Council, I tip my hat to you. Indivisible New Rochelle, you've done a great job electing people. But let's see what our folks on city council do with this one. But in terms of this stuff, get ready. I wouldn't be a bit surprised if the commissioner up in Albany says, school board, that meeting you had was not legal. There was not proper notice. You didn't form a committee to search for a superintendent, and they're going to say, school board, sorry, you have to reverse your decision.
Well, I hope that the state has $1 million to pay Ms. Fajo because she signed that contract in good faith.
It'll be on our back. She will be told to leave, and she will sue us. And the taxpayers in New Rochelle will pay the price, and all of the folks on the Interreligious Council and the NAACP, everybody will have to pay a couple of dollars. But it'll be the idiotic property owners who'll get stuck with the bill.
Now, I don't mean to agitate you any further, but one of the cruxes of the story that I wanted to cover, and that's why I called it Piling On, is why issue that statement when the issue with the football coach has everything to do with an alleged broken rule and absolutely nothing to do with race, has nothing to do with diversity, has nothing to do with, yes, this thing I put in the box before to make my point, that she did sue the city of New York. But beyond that, what does it have to do with that issue? Absolutely nothing. It's piling on. It's roughing the passer. Call it what you will. Why now? And that's why I listed their names. They're welcome to call. And I meet, and you've been around a long time, Vince, I meet everyone with goodwill. I actually personally always liked Mark McLean. But his agenda seems to be, and the agenda of colleagues of his, are what's driving this issue. And it's damn.
Well, Bob, you pretty much, you've answered your own question, but I'll add a little extra to it. This has nothing to do with justice. It has everything to do with power. Who's going to hire who for what jobs? Who's going to set the agenda? Who's going to make the rules? Who's going to get people elected? What we're seeing here is a far left bend of the public domain to the will of people who are organized and who get their folks elected. This has nothing to do with justice.
But I get that. That's
pointed out
yes, but
January 23rd, 2018, when all those folks from New War stood up in the auditorium of the high school and basically turned the murder of Valerie Schwab into a racial issue, which, by the way, she was chased down the street by a bunch of black and Hispanic kids, and she was white. Okay? So let's just make sure we understand what happened here. Okay?
Understood.
That it became a racial issue because that's what they want, Bob.
But it wasn't a racial issue. Not one conservative in this town said anything about that. They knew that they were actually her friends. They were all viewed as just students. And I really commended the conservative community at that time because none of the polemicists on that side took advantage of that color disparity at all. And
no, of course not, Bob. I didn't hear anybody stand up and say, what are we going to do about all these black kids chasing this white girl down the street?
Well, that would have been unfair and wrong. But hey, listen, I got to go. We're coming up on a new hour.
But that's where we are, Bob. The Interreligious Council, God bless them.
All right, thank you very much for the call. This is Radio Westchester. It's 7:04. We have to go right back to the top of the hour and get busy. We will reopen the phones. In fact, they're going to stay open, and we'll take calls till about 7:20 when we get to our first guest. Our phone number is 222-3141, 914-222-3141. The top of the hour is brought to you by the United Hebrew of New Rochelle, top-rated campus of senior care. Visit uhgc.com. Aging Issues Management, the law firm of Payne and Kahn, Dominic Cigars, and Plug-in Virtual Reality. We'll start off, though, with Chris Conway and find out what's going on outside. The skies, the temperature, indeed, the weather. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Bob. It is 35 degrees here in New Rochelle. It'll get up to about 60 today. It'll be sunny most of the day. Nice day, best day of the week. Tonight, clear highs in the low 40s. Tomorrow, scattered showers, probably in the afternoon, highs in the mid-50s. Tomorrow, Thanksgiving, I should say, mix of sun and clouds, high 48. And on Friday, Black Friday, will be sunny and cold with highs only in the low 40s. Weather is brought to you exclusively by United Hebrew of New Rochelle, voted one of America's best rehabilitation and senior care campuses. It's right here in New Rochelle. Visit uhgc.com. And I'm Chris Conway for Radio Westchester.
Thank you very much, Chris. We're going to take a look at our top stories, and then we'll come back to you with sports. So we've already spoken enough about what's going on with the coach. We do not know yet if Coach DiRienzo will be coaching this coming Sunday in the Carrier Dome. We certainly, hopefully, will know by the end of the day or tomorrow if he is. Again, that is the issue. We don't know. And, of course, the subject of our monologue today was why the Interreligious Council would come out with that letter now when this coach issue has very little to do with their assertions regarding the principal, or the superintendent of schools, embattled though she is after only 2 weeks, perhaps just simply for doing her job, in our take. The other stories we're following for you, the Masons have been the subject of the world takeover conspiracies, but for now, they'll only be taking over the former College of New Rochelle. Yep, sold. The Masons' $32 million bid for the college has been accepted by the bankruptcy court. This in Low Hut and News 12 today. The group, also called Freemasons, will buy the 15.6-acre campus after its winning bid. The trustees of the Masonic Hall and Asylum Fund won an auction for the property last week. They bid $11 million over the opening offer, called a stalking horse offer. The sale of this storied campus at auction is the final chapter in its long history. The Masons' plan for the property isn't yet known, but Pagani of Getzler Heinrich expressed confidence that the 15.6-acre campus will be used and developed in a manner that both preserves the legacy of this institution and offers value to the local community. Now, if this is any hint, folks, the Masons' plan for the property isn't yet known, as we said, but they do operate a senior health care campus and campground in Oneida County, according to their website, and maintain the DeWitt House, George Washington's headquarters and historic site in Tappan. They also administer operation of a grand large building of the New York State Masonic Fraternity that's located on West 23rd Street. So some people have asked us, who are the Masons? The fraternal organization of Freemasons started in Europe and spread to the American colonies. George Washington and 13 other presidents were Masons. 9 signers of the Declaration were Masons. And it was created in 1864, according to the Masonic Care Community website. And they were, quote, entrusted with the maintenance and protection of certain assets of the New York State Masonic Fraternity, whatever that means. It is 7:08. Sad story out of Edgemont yesterday. A 67-year-old Edgemont woman is dead after she was hit by a car on Friday. We reported it then, of course, but hopefully she would make it through. She did not. The woman, who's not identified, was struck by a 2014 Acura MDX and rushed to Westchester Medical Center. The Acura was turning onto Fort Hill Road from Underhill in Edgemont. The 49-year-old driver of the vehicle stopped and called 911 himself. An investigation continues. And yet another person has joined the race for the 17th district. That is the congressional district, the job being vacated by Nita Lowy. One Adam.
Bloomberg?
Pardon? No,
Bloomberg?
not Michael Bloomberg. We'll be talking about national news before we get to our 7:20 guest. But yes, not Michael Bloomberg. He's 38 of Chappaqua, will be the 6th candidate when he officially launches his campaign. That'll be today in a reliably blue district that will change hands after Lowy's retirement. We will get him on the air, too. So far, we've talked to Mondaire Jones, and we have talked to Asha Castleberry Hernandez. A lot of names I got to remember in this job. We will get them all on. Let's go to Chris Conway now for sports and see what's going on in the world of sports. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Bob. The Rangers had another come-from-behind win. They just needed one goal in the final 3 minutes to force overtime against Minnesota. Tony DeAngelo scored 32 seconds into overtime, giving the Rangers a 3-2 win over Minnesota. It was Matt Zuccarello's return to the Garden for the first time since he was traded.
He got quite a cheer.
He was a beloved video, player. And he came on the ice and he did a little lap thanking the fans. It was a nice moment. The Islanders, their 17-game point streak is done. They got shut out in Anaheim late last night in a game that ended, I think, 8 minutes ago. 3-0. Islanders losing to the Ducks. Brooklyn 108, Cleveland 106 in the NBA. Monday Night Football, Baltimore crushes the Rams 45-6. Lamar Jackson highlights his MVP candidacy with 5 touchdown passes. Tonight, just one local in action. Minnesota is in Newark to take on the Devils. For sports, I'm Chris Conway, Radio Westchester.
Thank you very much, Chris. As we saw a little bit of that Ranger game last night, I knew that this guy, Panarin, was good. Saw him play for Chicago. Saw him play for the Columbus Blue Jackets. But I have never seen a guy holding the puck been able to play keep away like him. Different way he does it than Bobby Orr. Now, he's not, he maybe is like the third or fourth best player now. He's not the very best. That guy, that McDavid. Folks, if you don't like hockey and you want to see something almost otherworldly, go on YouTube and look at highlights of Connor McDavid. That's just weird stuff. It's different. It's not as weird as Gretzky, where he clearly saw things ahead of time, but he's right up there and he's not human. Different species. His speed, he's the only person I've ever seen, and even he made play. See, Panarin is a combination of Gretzky and McDavid. He has those quick hands that are more common in today's game. Gretzky had the wide sweeping moves, and Gretzky saw things before they came up, the ability to make a play. But I've never seen anyone attack when 2 defensemen are already back. Now, the in hockey, for those of you who play the game, you know what I'm talking about, but if you watch it and you're a fan, the standard for a defenseman at any given level, it could be the majors, AAA, and as you go down or up the thing, is if you can't handle a one-on-one, okay, no matter how good the player is, I mean, once in a while you're going to get beat one-on-one, but if you can't handle that in general consistently, you're at the wrong level.
Right.
Well, McDavid's the only guy I've ever seen will actually attack the two. He'll actually take the puck and say, oh, look, hi, guys. And either split them, which happens, some of the Bobby Hull used to, make them look like fools. I've never seen it in all my years of watching the game. But what Panarin does, he's more of a perimeter guy. Panarin has the puck, and he shows it to you. Then he takes it away, and his hands go clip, clip, clip. Next thing you know, he's away from you. Yeah. Clip, 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 clip. Then he's away from you. And then he finds somebody. It's just fascinating stuff. You got to watch this guy Panarin, folks. You really do. And D'Angelo, who last year I beat up on like a rented mule. Boy, has he come into his own, this kid.
Yeah, he's with six or seven goals this year.
Well, 6 or 7 goals, but he leads the power play. Now this other kid, Fox, that came out of Harvard. Mm-hmm. But again, they're going to give up goals because they're young and when they can carry the puck like that. But the biggest surprise is D'Angelo. Now he comes from the area of hockey where my second half of my hockey life has been down in Central and South Jersey, and he has a horrible reputation for being a jerk, and it's been hinted at in the NHL too. Yeah. But evidently, if you remember last year, Quinn benched him a couple of times to get his, you got to be a team guy. And evidently he's gotten through to him. But boy, can he play. And things are looking up for the boys in blue, but it will be more consistent. Don't get your hopes up too much when you got 4 21-year-old defensemen.
Yeah, that's rough.
That is a rough thing. So anyway, that's my comment about sports. Now, as we get closer to our first guest, again, I want to remind people, Mike Edelman's up at 7:20, Mark Duffy at 7:35, Del Husler at 8:20, and then A.J. Woodson at 8:35. In the national news yesterday, Chris, the former White House counsel, Donald F. McGahn, II, must testify before House impeachment investigators about President Trump's efforts to obstruct the Mueller inquiry. A judge ruled this yesterday. Now, people are saying, the people that don't like Trump, it'll be a while, because this is going to be appealed. But what it looks like it'll boil down to, even if it gets all the way to the Supreme Court, is, as the judge said, no one's above the law, but even as a person testifies, there are things that are executive privilege. Mm-hmm. It's going to be tough figuring out what qualifies for executive privilege, but he does have to answer the subpoena, or will have to, once it goes through the appeals process. So that was a loss for Trump, a win for Trump yesterday. The Supreme Court on Monday temporarily blocked an appeals court ruling that required President Trump's accounting firm to turn over financial records to a House committee. The court's brief order gave no reasons, and there were no noted dissents. Again, this is the Supreme Court. No dissents. And it blocked an appeals court ruling that required him to do that. And that's the second time regarding his financial records and taxes. As you know, the Supreme Court also weighed short-term, saying that New York State's request for his tax returns, they put that on hold as well. Now, this may come as a shock. But I'm glad the president did it, even though it's kind of indicative of the wrongheadedness perhaps that he and or his advisors had. Guess who has resumed large-scale operations against ISIS in Syria?
Who?
Which country said, we got to pull out now, we're pulling out, go ahead, Turkey, do what you want?
Oh,
Us,
well, yes.
the United States. Here it is, read it. Out of every this is the time zone, but out of every outlet, we're back in because it's the right thing to do. Maybe they keep the president off the phone. Now, this issue that is tough, it really is. Trump says he's intervened in the war crimes cases to protect warriors. Now, it's blatantly political, and anyone who knows, who's got friends who are to the right, knows that sometimes they go overboard in supporting the military. Even the military doesn't go overboard in supporting the military. They believe in discipline in their ranks. They believe in people, that in the chain of command. Well, the president, he has pardoned some people, and now he's moved ahead with protecting a guy who they want, that is the Navy SEALs want to take away his pin. And it means you're a SEAL. It's a very elite thing, Chris. And the president's overruled them. And the reason he's overruled them, and I bet you've got friends like this, or maybe in your age group you don't, but I certainly do. Whenever a soldier shoots someone in the head illegally, or as in this case, takes a picture with a dead person, they go, yeah, right, okay. Right. Even the military doesn't want that.
Yeah.
Okay. But the president knows he gets votes by doing that. But what the president really has to look at is keeping discipline in the military. It's huge, keeping discipline in the military. That's why they call it soldiering. A lot of times your captain says, go up in that hill. I could get killed. Yeah, you got to do it. But imagine now what's going to happen if someone does something less egregious, perhaps, than what this guy did, and they take his pin away.
Yeah.
Now you've destroyed the system. I'm sure the president didn't think about it, and I know there's that sentiment that we need to back up our soldiers, and the president's gut is right about that. I think he made a mistake, though, in this case, or at least he should have appealed through channels, because now what we have is imagine that, the Secretary of the Navy quit. It's huge. Okay, and the thing, and the last thing, and it leads right into when Mike Edelman calls, which he will right now. Unless this is another phone call. I don't know. We'll get to it in a second. We'll get to you in a moment, caller. Is how, in God's name, and look, we need two parties, and I've been railing for weeks here, Chris, that we need more Republicans here in Westchester. We need more Republicans in New York State. We need a two-party system. But how does it help the two-party system when on national TV, congressmen and women are putting forth not a tailored, made of whole fabric narrative against what happened in 2016.
Yeah.
Beats the hell out of me. All righty, let's go to the telephone. It is 7:19. We suspect he's here a moment early, or it's a caller. In any case, good morning. You're on the air.
Hi, Bob. It's Mike. How are you?
I knew it was you, Mike Edelman. I'm very frustrated today.
Why is that?
Well,
Great
I won't even get into a local issue that has me, amped. But I will get into this. Let me get right down into the street with my belly here. Uh-huh. Are the American people stupid enough to believe that Ukraine is the country, they're at war with Russia, that Ukraine is the country that meddled in our elections? Are they that dumb?
It's not about being dumb. It's about being lazy. Fox News Rush Limbaugh, Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Janine Pirro have created an alternate reality, and they spew it on an hourly basis, not even on a daily basis. So if you listen to any of the Fox News opinion hosts, as opposed to Chris Wallace and Bret Baier and formerly Shep Smith, you're going to hear this repeated, that it was Ukraine, not Russia. And there's a reason they're doing that. They understand the connection between Donald Trump and Russia. They also understand that Donald Trump doesn't want to believe it's Russia because that makes his election illegitimate.
You know
So
what, though?
when you put, go ahead.
If I may, but let's be kind to the president. It is what it is. He's the president. I mean, in his mind and in his enemies' minds, they may say that it's illegitimate. He's the president. Given the givens, he won. That's that. But what does
People want to do that. He doesn't want to accept. You know, this is not the first time that Trump won't accept a win. He should have been out front saying, if Russia meddled in our election, it will never happen again. But as you will find out, and as I know privately, Donald Trump owes big time, not Putin, but the Russian mob and the oligarchs for bailing his butt out of Atlantic City and for Deutsche Bank. He owes them. He won't insult them. They've been propping him up for 20 years.
Now, sooner or later, something like that is bound to come out. And
Absolutely.
It's inevitable if that is so.
Absolutely.
But that's a
It is
powerful
so.
allegation. I accept what you're saying, but it's a powerful allegation.
It is, and it's true.
But that not with, but again, I get it. But I want to focus on, why aren't these men and women in the Republican Party, we need them. We need a strong Republican Party. Why are they sullying themselves to this degree? Where are the patriots?
The short-term game of either re-election or conservative judges on the Supreme Court or tax cuts is overriding their long-term judgment. History will not look on these people as having done their constitutional duty. History will not look on Donald Trump as anything other than a failed autocratic, narcissistic, authoritarian wannabe. But we've got to go through it. And unfortunately, in a democracy where you have an electoral college rather than direct election, you're going to run into situations where people who pander to emotions are going to carry the day. It's exactly what the framers feared. It's what Hamilton feared. It's what Madison feared, that one day somebody was going to make an emotional argument to the masses that had nothing to do with the facts. And that's why they wrote the Constitution, and that's why they put impeachment in the Constitution.
Well, so where do we go from here, Michael?
Well, let me say one thing about the Republican Party, which I was a member for 45 years. Not only was I a member, I voted for every Republican president. I ran for Congress as a Republican with conservative report. I spent 23 years on television defending every Republican running for office in the 5-county area. So now I'm being called a rhino, even though I'm no longer a Republican.
Of course you're a rhino.
Of course. But in the old days when Republicans could actually win elections in New York State, you had moderates under the tent. You had conservatives under the tent. You had even liberal Republicans under the tent. Nelson Rockefeller, Jacob Javits.
Well, you're not going to see that
people
anymore.
Could win. Well, that's the problem. You can't win as a Republican if you have three issues that you're concerned with, and if you exclude voters who you need to attract. After the Mitt Romney lost, the Republican National Committee wrote a 100-page dissertation on what they had to do. They had to include Latinos, young people, gays, all of that. It was totally disregarded. So the party is getting smaller and smaller and smaller. Look at the elections locally in Westchester this year. There is no Republican Party, and there certainly is no viable Republican Party anywhere in Westchester.
Well, we need a Republican Party. Well, you know what I'm hopeful for? Both parties take things to the extreme and attack. And one of the problems I think that the Democrats have is that because of the partisan nature of things, the hard facts that get revealed in this meeting and in these hearings, these hard facts get tarnished by that dynamic. To wit, how much of what's going on is simply to attack the president, and how much is being truly patriotic and wanting him held accountable?
Well, look at the facts, Bob. First of all, if you read the Mueller report, all right, the president was totally out of line. The only reason the president wasn't charged with 10 counts of obstruction was a Department of Justice policy that a sitting president couldn't be charged. Mm-hmm. If the policy didn't exist, he would have been charged. The Mueller report, most people didn't read it, 456 pages. They couldn't bother with it. They allowed people to give them summaries of it. So if you watched Fox, you got exonerated. If you watch CNN, you didn't get exonerated. The truth is, he wasn't exonerated. The truth is that there were more connections between his campaign and Russia. Nobody is saying that they conspired with Russia, but they welcomed Russian support. They knew about WikiLeaks. Roger Stone is going to jail. There's no doubt about that, and there's also no doubt that Russia placed 185 million social media posts to hurt Hillary Clinton. And the election was decided in 3 states by less than 77,000 votes, less than 1% in each state. You can't tell me that mathematically their effort didn't affect the outcome, because it did.
Well, of course they did, but so too did Hillary Clinton's failure to press her case in some of those states. Is that not true as well?
I'm not saying Hillary Clinton was a good candidate. She was a lousy candidate. But Donald Trump was a function of what Russia did. And now we're at the point where, okay, you were elected. We can argue about whether those social media posts did or didn't move 45,000 votes, half of what the margin of victory was. But now we've got him extorting the leader of Ukraine to accomplish a domestic political goal takedown of Joe Biden, because Joe Biden was leading in the polls. It's the patriotic duty of everybody.
Well, did I lose you? That ship has sailed. 727, we're talking with Mike Edelman. I think we lost him. Are you still there?
Consider him as far as that's concerned.
Oh, you're back.
They don't have to remove him.
Well, do you think that they will? I don't think they will. I think the voters are going to get a chance to do this, and it's probably just as well.
Yeah, I think what's going to happen is they're going to configure some way not to send this to the Senate for trial. And maybe they'll wind up with a censure resolution. Maybe they'll wind up with something else. One Democratic congressman from Michigan has already said that's enough of impeachment. But there will be some additional hearings. What the ranking member Nunes did is deplorable. He went to Ukraine and met with Viktor Shokin while he was investigating whether Shokin was doing his job or not. This is the definition of a conflict of interest. So the question is, which group in the Congress is doing their duty? And the answer is, the Democrats on the Intelligence Committee are conducting the hearings that the United States Constitution calls for when a president abuses his power. And one mistake they're making, Bob, is they're trying to make it bribery. And in conventional terms, people understand bribery as I give you money, you do something for me. All right, that's not what happened here. This is a case of abuse of presidential power for domestic political gain.
Now, let's look at 2 other things before I send you on your way. The first is Michael Bloomberg. Is this going to help or hurt? Now, he said something yesterday, and I think it was out in Phoenix. I may be wrong. He said that he's going to use his money either way. He even hinted that if he doesn't win, it was his money that turned those 2 state houses over to blue, and that he will use his money, more importantly, to get Trump out of office than he be winning himself. Do you agree with that, and do you think he has any chance?
Yes, I do. I don't think Michael Bloomberg actually believes that he's going to win the Democratic nomination. He's skipping the first 4 primaries. And he's relying on a media campaign rollout of $30 million to affect Super Tuesday. He's got a 1% standing in the polls. People are not necessarily aware of who Michael Bloomberg is outside of New York City, but the fact is, this is a very long time he's waited to get in. But it's extremely noble of him to understand the necessity to remove Donald Trump. And if he spends 150, he's got $55 billion.
Yeah,
each of those billion is 100 million. So if he spends 200 of one of those billion, it's fine.
It is fun. Well, now here's the next thing, and I get texts now. I actually agree with most of what you said today, not everything. So there's been no need to challenge you, as one of my callers suggested. But one area I think we have to look at really, really strongly, and I think where we need to look at the people who are going to go down with the ship with Donald Trump. He didn't happen for no reason. People wanted a disruptor in chief. People were sick and tired of the same old, same old. They were tired of Democrats giving away the store just to get votes. They were tired. I mean, you say what you will about immigration. At least the president's tried to do something about it. He's damned if he doesn't. He's damned if he don't. And many columnists now, Republicans included, are saying maybe Trump was what the country needed to wake up to all of these other things. What say you?
No, I don't agree with that. Obama was elected and reelected, and if he had run a third time, he'd be elected again. I think voters in the middle of the country gave a middle finger to elites and people with education, just as Donald Trump is doing. But it's a disaster for the republic. You can't disregard expertise when you're the president of the United States. You can't.
Well, that's the part where I agree with you. Yes, I understand.
You can't say that that science doesn't count, that math doesn't count, that expert opinion in diplomacy doesn't count. The only thing that counts is what you want to do today, and that could change between today and tomorrow. So read the book, A Warning by Anonymous, who I believe I know who Anonymous is.
You do?
Yes, I do.
You willing to profit?
Yes, Julia Hahn. She's the only one that works for Donald Trump that has a degree in philosophy, and the entire book is based on Plato, Aristotle, and Cicero.
Yeah, I saw all the quotes. Yeah, I read it, believe it or not, in the bookstore.
Now, so who knows that stuff, right? I don't know it off the top of my head, but somebody with a degree in philosophy would.
Okay, what about what's going on in the military? What's your take on that and the issue of losing the Navy Secretary?
Look, Donald, the president is not supposed to interfere with order and discipline in the military. It's up to the military to do that. You can't dismiss what this guy did just because you want him to keep his trident. All right? Trump said we train our boys to be killing machines. That's not what we do. We train a professional military that's based on following orders and discipline. And when the guys get out of line, when they do something that's unacceptable, it's up to the military to discipline them. It's not up to the president to step in and forgive them. That's not his job.
Well, he shouldn't, but legally he can do it.
That's not the issue. Legally, he can do a lot of things. It doesn't mean it's right.
Okay, one more thing. I keep giving you one more thing. I got about 10 of them. Story in the New York Times today. Evidently, we're stepping it back up in northern Syria. Did you see that?
Yeah, we shouldn't have left in the first place. Right? Now we're going back in. That looks really good. I'm surprised the Kurds are even talking to us there. ISIS has not been eradicated. ISIS fighters have not been eradicated. The territory has been eliminated, but ISIS still exists. And so, yes, we should be going back into northern Syria and continuing to fight ISIS. We should have never left.
734. Your fans here in my home area are saying, he keeps saying he's going to resign. So far, triple bogey, as one person humorously calls you, and I love that moniker. Triple bogey. Another one says, Edelman. He's been wrong and wrong again. So we want you
we won't know if I'm wrong until the convention, right? If the convention nominates Donald Trump to run and he's still in, then I will admit I was wrong.
Okay, that's going to be good radio.
Plenty of time to resign.
Okay, that's going to be good radio. My next guest I see is calling in. Listen, Michael, thank you very, very much. How's the weather down there in Florida?
Well, it's a little cool today, but it will be about 80 during the day.
Goodbye.
I have my turtleneck.
That's fine. Goodbye. Thank you very much, Mike Edelman, political analyst.
Bob.
Same to you and yours. Okay, let's see. We've got to get our Mr. again, I've lost credibility. No, I didn't. I'm letting the guy, Anthony, and I give Anthony his due. He says must be challenged. Now you've lost. No, that's his opinion, not mine. I don't know if the president took money from the Russians. That's his opinion. I'm not challenging the other stuff because I agree with him. I agree with him. And that's one side of the story. I didn't agree with the last part, but hey, what the hell do I know? All righty, I've got to get, now I'll take more calls later. I'll have time, probably 8-ish, so you can have at me then. But I just missed my guest, and it annoys the pickles out of me that I did that. So, Chris, give them another hack at the weather, and I will get our guest.
Good morning. It is 38 degrees along the Sound Shore. Shaping up to be a fantastic day today. Sunny, near 60 degrees tonight. Clear, low highs in the low 40s. Tomorrow, getaway day, the most travel day of the year. Scattered showers, mostly in the afternoon. Highs in the mid-50s. Thanksgiving, mix in sun and clouds. Highs in the upper 40s. And on Friday, Black Friday, will be sunny but cold with highs only in the low 40s. Weather is brought to you exclusively by United Hebrew of New Rochelle. It's voted one of America's best rehabilitation and senior care campuses. It's right here in New Rochelle. Visit uhgc.com. And I'm Chris Conway for Radio Westchester.
Thank you very much, Chris. I do believe we have our next guest on the phone, but one never knows. We still have to clear that up when we come back from the holiday. But I do believe it is Mike Duffy. Good morning. You are on the air.
You have lost all credibility.
Speak to me. Why? Because I agree with you?
Your show has just become the Hannity show, because I'm going to tell you why.
Go ahead.
The interview you just had was no different than Hannity having on Donald Trump Jr. and not challenging any of his
What was I going to challenge?
Because he agreed. The Russian mob controls him in Atlantic City.
Oh, I called it an allegation. Oh, there's my guess, but go ahead.
Go ahead. Right? That's a challenge, right? That's a challenge, calling it an allegation. That's not saying, what do you base that on? Can you send me something that proves that?
Point taken. But again, short on time.
All
he wanted to say
down the tubes.
Well, I'm
sorry, partner. Down the tubes.
We'll have to restore it.
You throw red meat at him, and I know sometimes it's to chump people like me and Tom. I understand that. But this goes beyond that. This goes beyond the credibility of an interviewer to be fair and balanced.
He said that he had inside information.
Okay, so here again.
Okay,
you've
tell you what I'm going to do
for using information that's not been verified.
Well, what do you want me to do?
You yourself will not report something with inside information that's not verified.
But he's a guest. He gets to say that. I tell you what I'll do.
Say it.
Anthony,
I'm not saying he shouldn't say
Anthony,
it.
I am going to hold on. I'm going to sustain, and I got to get this guy back. I'm going to sustain your criticism, meaning that I get you. I hear it. Maybe I enjoyed it too much. I will hold him to account next time.
Triple bogey expect anybody to lay credence to these hearings when a Democratic person on that committee asked Ms. Hill, is it true that you had your pigtails set on fire while you were taking a test?
Of course that was silly.
You just put them out and continued on with the test?
Anthony, I'm going to say to you what I said to this guy once argued, who is as smart as you are, that I was trying to give
I'm not smart, Bob.
No, yes, you are.
Deplorable.
You are not a deplorable. Stop it! Stop it!
That's what I've been labeled.
No, but what you...
both by triple bogey and by the Democrats.
No, you are not a deplorable. No, but what I said to this guy, do you deny what these people are saying? Of course you don't. You can pick out these odd and end things.
Tell me one person that has it firsthand, Bob.
Okay, you will have all of that. Listen, I got to take this guest, but I will follow up. Thank you. I do sustain what you're saying. I should have challenged them more, but I did enjoy it. All righty, I do believe I have my guest on, Mr. Duffy. Who do I have?
I'm here.
Yes, I'm sorry. We've been arguing here all day with our... we had a guest...
No, I've been listening.
Well, good, but we had a guest that talked about... And actually, the caller was right. I probably should have challenged him more, but I said, well, that's what he believes. But something's got to be going on.
Can I comment on Mr. Edelman?
Yeah, I wish you would.
He stated... he talked about the Mueller report.
Yes.
Does he think that if there was something incriminating in the Mueller report, that the House wouldn't have moved to bring articles of impeachment based on that? And he said, well, there was no exoneration. And he should know, as a former prosecutor and as an attorney, that they don't say you're exonerated. They say there's not enough evidence here to bring charges.
Well, I think he was speaking to the fact that he put in the report, quote, this does not exonerate the president. That is a quote from the report.
Right. And that's not the job of a prosecutor.
I agree.
To exonerate.
I agree.
The prosecutor just examines the facts, and if there's enough for indictment, there's enough. If not, the case is over. The investigation is over. So Michael knows that, and I agree with him about the state of the Republican Party in Westchester. But that's just my 2 cents there, Bob.
Now, but do you agree? Now, the evidence that you've heard, no, I like your 2 cents, because certainly, now Anthony is a really close friend of the program, and he and I agree to disagree, and we like to make the point that we can do it without hating each other. And that's what this country needs more of. But see, I agree with 80% of what he said, but Anthony was right. I probably should have tracked him more on that allegation. But that said,
well, I don't know about that, but I agree with Anthony 100% on that. So
I just said that, yeah. I should have tracked him on that, and but I let him have his say for too long. I sustained the complaints from the northern part of Westchester, okay, both of you.
Well, now, it's a shame he turned into a never-Trumper, but it is what it is.
Well, I do want to go back to this, though. What you've heard as a guy that's been on both sides, you've been an investigator and you have been a defense attorney. Now, again, we have different standards. Preponderance of the evidence, 1, 2, beyond a reasonable doubt. So far, do you think... See, I don't think quid pro quo in this case, by the way, is an impeachable offense, and the dog agrees with me. So I don't think he's going to be removed from office. But clearly, all the people we've heard from, this happened, unless I'm nuts.
As far as what, though? I don't think there's a chance he's going to be removed from office. I don't see anything there. I don't see any impeachable offense.
No, neither do I.
Crime.
But no, neither do I.
You need a high crime and misdemeanor, and people are throwing out this quote from Gerald Ford: impeachment is what the House of Representatives says it is.
No,
well,
it
not
isn't.
really. Impeachment is what's embedded in the Constitution: high crimes and misdemeanors and bribery.
Nobody
and
knows.
I think they saw that problem, Bob, and that's why they started throwing bribery in there and took out.
I do agree with you.
Quid pro quo language.
See, I do agree with you, because what I do believe there was quid pro quo, absolutely. And what I'm asking you if you do, but I don't believe it rises to the level. And what Ford was right about, it's not what the Congress says, it's what those senators will have to say if something's presented to them.
Right, in the real world.
See, we agree.
Statutorily, no, that's not how it works. And
statutorily.
And that's what they're doing now. That's what they're playing games with now.
Yeah, but they well
they're not
know.
going by the law.
They know that there is no law that applies to this synapse that's in there. They left it vague. They want it to be difficult, and rightly so. I think we see what I'm saying is I think we agree on that. But what I want to know, I'm not crazy, or maybe I'm just wrongheaded. But there's certainly he did lean on them.
Well, there was a quid pro quo,
yeah, okay,
and Mulvaney said this, and as soon as he mentioned quid pro quo, everybody went nuts, right?
I know.
But that was regarding the meeting with the president. That wasn't regarding the aid. That was
Michael,
regarding the
do you know what I feel
meeting.
like? Do you remember the movie Casino?
Yes, barely.
No, but there's this scene when Bob De Niro's character, he knew that this senator was on the take, and he said, and he kept saying, you did this, and you did that. And then De Niro says, well, will you at least admit you were there at the dinner? So I might have been there. He goes, all right, at least I got that. At least I got you to say that. All right, so I tell you what I'm going to do. The next time Michael's on, I'm going to ask him to substantiate that information. I yield to the senator from Somer and the senator from both the Northern Westchester pals.
Well, listen, I did agree with you though on the if he's correct about who wrote that book, that was kudos to Michael on that, because there's no confidentiality.
Do you
there.
two know
People
each other?
Are free to guess, and whoever this person is, it makes perfect sense that it was this Julia Hahn.
Yeah.
So
now, do you know Michael? Do you guys know each other from your travels in the Republican Party?
Michael Edelman?
Yeah.
Just bumping into him once in a while in an old circle I used to hang out with. Yeah, but not we weren't social.
Like your little Republican Party gatherings, I guess. 7:45. Do you realize I'm going to hear? You don't know the abuse I take. Now, Anthony's also a good friend, and now he's going to say, "Oh, you're a revered lawyer, Bob. You're revered. Mike Duffy agrees with me." You know, I'm going to have to hear that for a week now. Thanks. Anyway, Michael, and thus is my regard for you, as it is for him. We live in a busy time. Are you following at all what's going on? I did a monologue, talk about, Anthony used the term, do you have the cojones to do this? Boy, talk about, I took on a religious group today. I'm waiting for the torches to come around the radio station. A religious organization weighed in on a school matter about which we yet have no proof, and it's become very political. And it always scares me when religious organizations go political, but it's always been thus, hasn't it?
Well, they're not supposed to, but yeah, they can lose their tax exemption. But I don't know the story to which you're referring.
Well, this is the super.
Generally.
Well, what happened is, and that's it, because the things got muddied. We have a situation here. You've probably seen it in the news where the football coach, who's a very gifted guy and beloved coach.
Yes, I've been reading that in Rochelle. Yes.
He did something that he shouldn't have done, and at least that I think even the people that support him would agree with it. But the school has not yet determined whether that was all he did. We don't know. Blah 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 blah. And so now, this superintendent who has to deal with this is stuck in a sticky wicket because she has to deal with it, and she's already been under fire because she sued the city of New York because she feels she was passed over and demoted because she was white.
Right.
And so the city, the far left in our community feels that exempts her from being qualified to do the job, which is rubbish in my view. But nonetheless, that's the issue. So now, even though she's only been in the job a week and a half, so now that she's dealing with this, the Interreligious Council comes out with a scathing rebuke of her, not even knowing what the facts are. And it's troubled me no end. It's the first time in a long time that this job has kept me up at night when I read what they had to say about her. And
I don't know who is the Interreligious Council.
Well, it's a historically wonderful group.
Or?
It was started by this wonderful Rabbi Wall, because it's a very diverse city, religiously, ethnically, racially.
Yeah, I knew Rabbi Wall.
Wonderful man.
Yes.
And he brought groups together from Protestants, Catholics, Reform Jews, Orthodox Jews, Islam, you name it. You know, and even quite frankly, some of the lesser churches where you could buy a divinity degree, they were included too. So, you know.
Okay, so here's what I'm thinking about that, Bob. If it's and you're going to think lawyer splitting hairs.
No, I wanted you to split hairs.
If the Catholic Church came out and said that, or the Muslim faith, or just the Jewish faith came out and did this, it's one thing. If it's an interreligious council that is basically not a religion, right? Because it's made up of various religions that disagree about certain tenets, but they're a group of religious organizations, but in and of itself, it's just a social group.
No, I agree.
Basically, an organization.
No, I don't find that you're smithing at all. I actually totally agree with that, and I really didn't set you up because we went from one call to another. Mike Duffy is a defense attorney, a very fine one, I might add, and what gives, and this isn't just to blow smoke here. I need to describe you, and I hate being nice to you, but
smoke is nice sometimes.
He's a very fine defense attorney who was the head of investigations at the DA's office here in Westchester, and prior to that was a detective cop on the beat. He's done it all, and that gives he always has great perspective and balance. Having said that, no, my concern, it's that, but it comes at you with the moniker of religion, and it comes at you with that heft, and an organization that I've respected for all 15 years I'm up here. Mm-hmm. And to see them pile on without knowing the facts when the very things that they're complaining about, they now themselves are guilty of judging without sufficient proof.
Well, Bob, anybody piling on without knowing the facts is wrong, whether they're a religious group or not. But I tend not to view that. Again, I think it's an attorney splitting hairs, but I don't view that as a religious group. I view that more as a community group.
Yeah, it is. I agree with you. I agree with you totally.
Okay.
But isn't it interesting when you could put the emblem of religion in the background? It troubled me no end. And I
Right.
think the thing that troubled me is one of the things I try to do here, which is also why I admit when I think I've been wrong, is that to try and get at the truth and weed away bias and try. I mean, I clearly didn't do it before, but you got to try. And
Well, Mike goes on and on. He's tough to interrupt, but he look. He had a lot of great points.
No, he didn't. No.
It's a great part for your show. It's very.
I'm making
it's,
a larger
good
point.
listening, Bob. I'll tell you that.
No, but I'm making a larger point. Which is that one of the reasons I do this is this woman, and now I'm going to categorically tell you, Michael, and understand what it's like to be me. I've interviewed superintendents across the board here in Westchester for 15 years. I've interviewed principals. This woman was the most coherent, cogent, intelligent, focused school administrator I have ever met. Now, it's just a 1 hour interview. I get that. Her only crime, as would be described by her detractors, is that she sued to defend herself of what she thought was racial discrimination. Now, I do have a little bias here that I'll admit. Carranza's an open racist. It's part of his policy. And I'm not going to...
He's horrible. The New York Post is trying to knock him out.
I wish the hell they
Blasio's
would.
Not budging on that.
I wish the hell they would.
They're going after him every day.
In fact, is it important as a lawyer for you to have a sense of urgency?
Oh, sure.
Well, then you're a white supremacist. Then is it important?
There's things are urgent.
Is it important
there's
for
things
you?
that you want to
let me finish.
for a
No,
while.
let me finish because I'm playing an interesting game, but it's based on fact. He has this PowerPoint presentation that he gives to teachers, and these are. I mean, look, some of them are certainly indicative of white privilege. I understand white privilege, but white supremacy, that's a powerful word to use. It's a political word. It is a nasty word. If you have a sense of urgency. Now, as a lawyer, how much do you have to have respect for the written word?
Oh, well, I'm a big Scalia guy, Bob.
Okay,
and that,
good.
The written word, he was a textualist.
Well,
so
then you're a white guess what?
There.
Well, guess what? You're a white supremacist. And if you have a pursuit of excellence, and this is what he gives to teachers. So if
glad I called Bob to get these terms thrown at me.
No, because now you
I know what you're saying.
No, now you know why I'm upset today.
That incident, she commenced a lawsuit. Where is her due process?
Thank you.
She felt she was wronged as an individual.
Right, that's why I do
this. It's her right to commence this lawsuit, and it has nothing to do with the city of New Rochelle.
Yes, it does because because the optics are bad.
Well, it does now, but.
Well, and so now we switch. That's the issue they're upset about. So right now she has to deal with this issue with the football coach. And you know how it is with icons and sacred cows. And the guy's a wonderful coach, but I also get the other rumblings. I get people who talk on background, but they don't want to go on record against the coach because the mob is out there. But, like a lot of powerful people, people wonder if maybe people look the other way when he does some of the things. I don't know. But what I'm saying
Bob,
is...
we're all human beings.
Yeah.
Everybody has got something somewhere. You know what happens? It reminds me of the Kavanaugh situation where they take one thing and then they keep piling on. And when I mean they, I mean opponents to this person or individual. I don't mean any one group. So, Trump, we had this with Russia. Now, that's not working, so we'll do Ukraine. That's not working, and they did the same. They, being the Democrats in that situation, did the same thing with Kavanaugh. They totally tried. They didn't, but they tried to totally destroy that man, and that's outrageous. And it seems groups in New Rochelle are taking a similar tack towards the new superintendent.
Absolutely.
And give her a chance. Let her get in there. If she can do her job, she can do her job. She can't, she can't. So.
Hell no. Why?
Why would common sense?
Why do that? And it's the same thing. I actually think in some ways they're hurting the coach because maybe the coach did have something he did. Well, what happened was, if you read it, he was supposed to call 911, but he knew the family or the girl was family. So what's alleged, and this is secondhand, but what it's generally agreed upon, that he squired her out of the school, didn't report, didn't tell the medical department, didn't call 911. And, the girl could have died on the way or choked on her own vomit. But that's what we know. But we wonder, it's taken so long to adjudicate this thing. Is there something else we don't know about? So what it's done, in fact, the critics of the superintendent are saying, but it's created all this speculation. Well, your attention to it has created the speculation as well.
Yeah, I'm not even aware of that part of the story you're talking about, Bob, about the girl and all that.
Well, that's what got him suspended or at least reassigned was he was supposed to call 911. He came upon a girl in a cafeteria, a young child, whose name we will never use, who was severely drunk, and perhaps on the verge of alcohol poisoning. And the rules are that you call 911. Or go to the medical department. And he squired her out of the school and got her to her family, which was well intended.
And and I know there's old school ways of dealing with things,
right.
And you got to obey the rules, and you got to do what you're supposed to do. When I was a cop, you pull up on the scene years ago. Believe it or not, they didn't want DWI statutes enforced back, in the 70s, 80s. It was like the person is okay, there's no damage. Yeah. Call a cab, put the person in cab, send them home.
Right.
That was an attitude,
yes.
With a lot of departments, with most departments back then. And you can't do that now.
No,
maybe you shouldn't have done it back then, but it's a different mindset.
No, and I understand that. And if that is all that happened, he did it with the best of intentions, and maybe he needs his wrist slapped. I don't know. We have one journalist here who thinks there may be more to it, an internecine battle between himself and people there. But the point I'm getting at is they should let this thing get adjudicated once and for all. And if he did something, he did it. If he didn't, then we hold the superintendent or the school district accountable for making a mountain out of a molehill, but we don't know that yet.
Right. It all comes down to a competent investigation. What are the true facts there? And people are jumping in all situations. People, yourself, Bob, especially you. People jump to conclusions left and right about what happened, and a lot of times they turn out to be wrong. And let all the facts come in. Let a competent investigation be held, and then and see what happens from that point onward.
Absolutely. Before we go, I know we got a couple of minutes left. We've been looking at some stories lately about corrections officers, particularly down in New York, taking their eyes off that guy that might kill himself, Epstein.
Yeah, Epstein. Yeah.
Should they go to jail for that? If you were defending them, how would you handle that case?
Depends when you say took their eyes off. If they purposely did it, and somebody died, which is what happened, they're potentially looking at a jail sentence. But my reading of it, when the story first broke, the one of them is not even really a correction officer. So I don't even know how they do that. But they're federal employees down there. They have rules and regulations. That's a terrible job, no matter where you are.
Sure.
I know a lot of corrections officers. I deal with them all the time. Yeah, they're in jail more than the inmates are.
Of course they are.
They go to these closed-in institutions, and they're there all day, and they're spat on, they're cursed at constantly. And on the midnight tour, you're tired. A human gets tired at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah,
they fall asleep. I'm not saying they should. Their job is to stay awake and safeguard the inmates and safeguard the institution. But stuff happens. And in this case, it seems like, I think Barr said this, it was just a whole lot of things went wrong here. It was just a confluence of events, and it resulted in this guy being dead, and now we have this whole conspiracy theory. I think the guy killed himself, but what do I know?
Well, what the hell do you know? You're a lawyer, a former gumshoe copper.
But they have video, and when they don't have video, they got to see why the video wasn't on. Was it turned off? Was there a defect? If the videos all of a sudden are turned off, Well, I mean, that's like an old movie, right? Oh, go in there
Yeah,
and turn the video
yeah.
off and the spray paint the camera or something like that. There's obviously something going on there. But
7:59. It must be hard to kill yourself, though. If you're not jumping off a chair and making it irreversible, it's got to be hard to keep holding that thing tight until you lose. You got to be in some mental pain to do that, to finish that job.
yeah, you know what? Too. Well, you start to lose consciousness. But the whole why I think it is a little sketchy. I will say this: the breaking of the hyoid bone, which need a lot of pressure on to snap that, and that's what I think Michael Baden said that he thought it was a homicide because of that fact. But is that dispositive in and of itself? I don't know. You got to look at everything.
What kind of
And look,
bone?
you got the premier law enforcement organization in the country looking at it, the FBI. So we'll see what happens.
That's not what Trump said about the FBI. I'm just busting chops. It is 8 o'clock. Listen, I really appreciate your willingness to weigh in on all these issues and come in the middle of debates. Michael, it is always a pleasure. You can find him on the web. Mike Duffy's a very fine attorney, and as you can see, he's played all the roles. He knows what the other side is up to. That's a
Bob,
good thing.
one final thing, if I can.
Sure.
George Latimer was on yesterday. I think he's done a great job as county executive. I really do.
Go ahead.
Even though I'm on the other side of the fence as far as parties go.
Yes.
But I think George has restored a lot of things that should have been restored that weren't.
Yes.
If you could ask him a question,
Sure,
I would
let me write it down.
This is one of my pet peeves. Okay.
I'm on it.
Okay,
Coppa.
well, the Kensico Dam, the road on top of the Kensico Dam has been closed since 9/11.
Oh,
it opened
yeah.
up briefly. And traffic in Valhalla, North White Plains is just horrendous because of that. The store owners are complaining. And, we're 18 years past 9/11. I know there's certain security concerns.
I'm on it.
But I'm thinking they did open it for a time to passenger traffic. You could just ask George, what the county what their position is on this, him and the county. And I heard rumors that he was trying to get the road open.
I will. You can count on it. I've got a whole list here of things I have to ask guests, and he's on every Monday. We will ask him, Counselor.
Well, that's great.
Well, listen, you have
Bob,
a wonderful Thanksgiving, and thank you for all your time, and we'll talk to you again next week. Thank you so much. Folks, Mike Duffy, go on the web. All right, you will find on the web, and you will find Mike Duffy easy to find. He's a lawyer in White Plains, and I'm checking my levels here. We have to go and do some weather. We are going to talk with Jake in a few moments, and also Jake has brought to us the mailbag. Our voluminous mailbag is filled to the rafters, and he thought it would be, and he's rightly so, a nice holiday treat if I took a few minutes to answer a few, and I agree with them. So I'm going to answer them when we return. But first, Chris, the old bag, the holiday old bag. I love this job. Yeah, I just saw the woman on TV that we interviewed yesterday, but I'm not supposed to refer to the TV and all that good stuff. All righty. Chris is about to share the weather. I need some new music. I need something new here. Right? I'm going to do this. This is like Stern when he does this stuff, works his own board in the middle of his show. Time for the weather. And it's creeping up on you. The weather, it's sunny. It's 30. What? It's 35. Chris Conway.
Very dramatic music. I like it. It is 35 degrees in New Rochelle. Today it will be sunny and 60, so an absolutely perfect day for this time of year, or for most times of the year. Tonight, clear in the low 40s. Tomorrow, scattered showers, mostly in the afternoon. Highs in the mid-50s. On Thanksgiving, a mix of sun and clouds, high 48. And on Black Friday, it will be sunny but cold with highs only in the low 40s. Weather is brought to you exclusively by United Hebrew of New Rochelle. It's voted one of America's best rehabilitation and senior care campuses. It's right here in New Rochelle. Visit uhgc.com. And I am Chris Conway for Radio Westchester.
Thank you so much, Chris. This top of the hour is brought to you by United Hebrew of New Rochelle, a top-rated campus of senior care. Visit uhgc.com, the law firm of Pena & Khan, Aging Issues Management and Aging Issues Radio, Dominic Cigars, and Plug-in Virtual Reality. By the way, Dominic Cigars, we're going to talk with Jake a little bit, get his assessment about last night's game that he refused to bet on wisely. And those football picks that he brings you each and every week are brought to you by Dominic's Fine Cigars, licensed retailer with a big selection, including Arturo Fuente and more. Dominic's Fine Cigars, located at 204 Boston Post Road in Larchmont, New York. And we're going to lighten up the music for this segment. Jake, in this case, he keeps developing different things for us, and this one makes a lot of sense. He wants me to respond to the mail. One of the chief producers here at Radio Westchester, so we're going to do that. That's the theme music for the show. Chris, let's see what we have. Letter number 1. Take a seat, mine host. Jake, bring your coffee, bring your mail, and in that seat you put your tail. You know, I could do rap.
Do is a strong word.
Okay.
Simulate rap.
Dear Bob, you have what my grandma would call the gift of gab. Do you ever tire of talking? Sincerely, Alice in Sleepy Hollow. Okay, Alice. My grandmother said to me, and this is a quote, Jake, she said that I was vaccinated with a phonograph needle. And too bad she wasn't alive almost 20 years ago when I started doing this for a living. But I was also a teacher, a corporate teacher for many years. So, Alice, thank you very much. Do I ever tire? Yes, actually I do. Once I was on a speaking tour. Absolute true story, Alice. I was on a speaking tour maybe in 1983. When I was running this training school for my company, we opened 14 outlets in 14 different cities around the country. And I had to go and host, first of all, a big gathering for all the new employees, and then give speeches. And I remember I was in the Copley Plaza Hotel in Boston when I told my right-hand man, I just can't do it tonight. I can't. I just can't shake one. I don't know how the Donald Trumps and the Hillary Clintons, whomever run for all, how they do it. I said, I can't. I'm locking myself in my room. I had a T.S. Eliot book. I said, I'm going to read. No, D.H. Lawrence. I'm going to read this book that I got at a book sale today, and I'm just not coming out. So that's for, but yes, it happens once in a while. Chris, you can abuse me. You have that look. What did you want to say?
No, nothing yet.
Okay. Here's another one. Robert. Oh, I got a Robert. After all these years, and there have been many, how do you stay a fair and balanced stay? Well, as you can see,
by the way, that question did not come from Anthony Colette.
No, actually, he knows that, but that's why he gets mad when he thinks I waver from that, because he knows I work very hard to try and be, but sometimes I'm not. Your pal Cecil in Armonk. Quite frankly, by admitting when I'm wrong, or at least missed a stroke, and by admitting that I have my biases, but I try to be balanced. As you can see in this very same show, I've thrown liberals and the president under the bus. So, particularly here in New Rochelle. But Cecil, thank you for that. It's not easy, and that was not for drama today. I really had trouble sleeping last night over the story that we did. Letter number 3. What kind of music do you listen to? Signed, Curious in White Plains. I love classic rock, and we do not have any on this program because that's yet one more thing we have to buy. We bought a bank, and it was not cheap, a bank of music, and we use about 6 or 7 for the show, but we also have access to hundreds of songs here, but none of them are tunes you would know from classic rock. We got to buy what's called an ASCAP license. We've not done that yet. And I miss it, but groups like Queen, Chicago, of course the Beatles, Rolling Stones, all that kind of stuff. Big Queen fan. The Who, I think I said that already, or what? The Who, the what, and where. So thank you very much. Signed, Curious in White Plains. Letter number 4. Oh, I love this one, baby. All right, let me get the silver hair going here. Dear Mr. Marrone, the gals in Harrison call you the Silver Fox. How do you keep your youthful appearance? The Golden Girls in Harrison, New York. Okay, how do I keep... Well, first of all, no one in my family wrinkles too much.
I may have to leave the room
No,
because I've
this
got
is
19 quips I can add to this.
No, but you go ahead, but let me just finish. Let me finish. And the fact that I've stayed in shape still playing hockey makes me look a little younger than I am, maybe. But again, my daughter is, I should show a picture up, she'd die, but my daughter is, and she looks like 15 years younger. And well, her mom doesn't wrinkle either. It's just, but I don't wrinkle. I just don't get a lot of wrinkles. I'm just lucky. Unlike okay. Letter number 5. This is from Chris Conway, one of the participants in our broadcast. When is the cake coming, Chris? I said it was National Cake Day. I didn't say. Does that mean I got to go buy a cake now inside for you?
I thought that was just assumed. Am I wrong?
Well, in fact, let me add this to the gals in Harrison. You'll be glad to know I prefer buns over cake. All righty, it is 8:10. It's 10 minutes to. I'm gonna get. See now, Anthony's gonna call and abuse me. Somebody is. It's 10 minutes to our next guest. So, hey, that was pretty good stuff. Interesting stuff that these people. And I noticed that I'm always being hounded by some of my partners, and they'll say, "Are you doing more than New Rochelle?" And of course we are. And this shows that we're getting letters from elsewhere.
You obviously have a big fan club in Harrison.
Well, Harrison's a good place, and Harrison, I got to know these people through my colleague who still does mornings at my old station, and this is where we break rules. I'm not gonna. Oh, don't ever listen to them. It's of course my good friend Dennis Nardone got Harrison and the people up there kind of connected me with them, and I'm very grateful to him for that. I didn't know I had fans in Harrison, but I'll take that.
The Golden Girls.
The Silver Fox and the Golden Girls are obviously women of my age group. Yes, someone just called to abuse me. Let's see, that's 811, right? Yeah, they just did. Sorry I missed you, but please do call, right? No, I know how to do this. What am I saying? Let's get them back.
Maybe it's one of the Golden Girls.
Oh, that may mean that. Good morning. This is Bob Marrone. Who am I speaking with? You're on the air at Radio Westchester.
Tom from Pelham.
Thomas, good morning. What'd you think of that, Thomas? Did you hear my letters? There's a whole. Go ahead.
I don't know what you mean.
Okay. Well, we thought you might be listening as well before you called.
I did, but I don't know which one you were reading. Oh,
these women in Harrison clearly say, how do I keep my youthful appearance?
Borderline stalkers.
I don't. These women, I think their mental ability has to be.
I knew someone
looked into.
Me. I knew someone would abuse me. Thomas,
is that a real letter? Is that fake news?
Yeah, it could be fake news. Is it fake news, Jake?
Voluminous viewer mail.
Voluminous, all 5 of them. Voluminous viewer mail. So, Thomas, I'm sorry about your Islanders.
You know what? I went to bed midway through the second. I couldn't keep my eyes open. It was a really poorly played game. It was like there was ruts on the ice. Neither team played well. Even the linesmen were falling down. It was. I don't know.
Where was the game? I was playing out in Anaheim, right? And I guess the ice was crappy.
Anaheim, yeah. That's a tough, to go on a road trip out to the West Coast when you're trying to prolong a streak like that. It's almost impossible. I don't know. I think so.
Well, but you know what?
Not a good spot to be. I'd rather be on the East Coast, even if I had to go play Washington. I'd rather be doing that to try to keep a streak alive versus traveling out to the West Coast and going up and down California.
You know what happens, though? Sometimes you need to have a game like that in the middle of a streak because, and it's a very interesting thing about hockey. You think you're going hard until the coach will tell you, no, you're not. And you'll say, yeah, but, and you realize you weren't, that you had another level that you were hitting when you were going after the record and that you're not doing it anymore. It's really interesting. So what happens is a loss like that, you begin to say to yourself, and the coach will point out in videos how you're getting beat to the puck. Hey, I watched my own team do that the other night. My best player lost more foot races than a dog with 3 legs. So
did you see my text I sent you yesterday?
Which one? I got a million texts these days. Which one?
Well, I went to Best Buy on Sanford Boulevard, and the parking lot overlooks Memorial Field. And what do I see down there on Memorial Field? There are 2 machines clearing away dirt and leveling off the property. And, Bob, that could have happened in year 1 or year 2 or year 3 of the Richard Thomas administration. And because they were out to get that man, nothing happened until the day he left. All of a sudden, boom, machines show up and dirt starts moving around.
I agree with you. And, again, Richard, because, I have him on. We've had him on for a couple of hours now. And I don't think he was happy when I said, I think he made mistakes with not making more friends. And I think he made mistakes with his choice of the deputy commissioner because he helped finance his campaign, and I think the optics alone was a mistake. And I also think that he had to pay money out of that other account in the water department, but that probably he's going to take heat for that. So, but yeah, clearly.
Okay, so Bob, so yes, everything you said is probably true. I would say it probably is definitely true. But yes to what you just said. And so who gets to get hurt because they want to get back at the man? The people of Mount Vernon, the people of the nearby communities who love that field, who use that field, they were now sacrificed. The people of Mount Vernon were sacrificed because they had to get that guy out.
Yeah, absolutely. And but one of the things that we do here, and I think you know that now, is we don't let these sleeping dogs lie. A lot. There's this notion, well, that's old news, move on. And justice is never old news. And what happened to Richard Thomas, while a lot of it was self-induced, more of it was not, because I got the records. You know, I had the documents. I read them. That's why I'm so hard now on the office up in Albany of the comptroller. I read the reports. I read the emails. I saw them with my own eyes. I am shocked at what happened to Richard Thomas. And I will continue
if you want to connect dots between Richard Thomas and President Donald Trump, I think you'll see the same thing.
The dynamics were the same, but always you retreat to the facts. Yes, and I tried to do that at the end of my interview before with, I guess, your friend Mike Edelman, which is how much of it is true in terms of the facts and how much of it is just trying to get him out of there. And it's very hard to do.
Bob, let me ask you, do you think the impeachment inquiry and what's going to occur after that is political?
It's always political. And that's the founding fathers wanted it to be political. That's why this debate you may have heard we had earlier, and it wasn't even a debate, conversation. That's why they've been very vague about what constitutes an impeachable offense. Unless something is so egregious that both parties would agree, they don't want the guy. They want the elections to do it. But I do think that the president broke rules. I do think that there was a quid pro quo, but I don't think that quid pro quo meets the standard of a removal from office. I do not.
I have a hard time believing that Trump was so concerned about Joe Biden that he ran to the Ukraine and put pressure on them to investigate Biden. I happen to think that really it truly is, he does not like doling out foreign aid to countries that aren't reciprocating and doing the right thing by the USA.
Well, but in this case, they were.
I believe that it's all about the corruption. And I think that if you're going to give money to a foreign power or a foreign entity, in return, you've got to get something back. And if you don't feel that the country is giving you back or they're not doing what you want them to do, and I don't mean investigating a political opponent, I mean something different. Like, they're doing corrupt things with the money, it's not going to the right reason. I think, withholding it until you are assured that they're going to do something right, I don't think that's a bad idea.
Well,
it's your money you're giving.
Allow me to retort halfway. See, one of the reasons I don't think he should be removed from office is he did exact something. But I think the proof is there, with all due respect, that he wanted political information. But as many people have suggested, I'm sure he's not the first president to do it. He just got caught, and he put this crazy man, Giuliani, in charge of doing it. But that said, I don't think it rises to the level of impeachment. Now, in terms of that money, you have to remember that country is at war with our adversary, which is, of course, Russia. And they needed that money. But again, is it impeachable? No, I'm sure he's not the first president, and he won't be the last. He just got caught. So.
Yeah, but Trump has provided them with military aid that exceeds what Obama's administration gave to the Ukraine.
No, it does, but yes, it does.
What is it called? A tomahawk? Is it tomahawk?
No. You're right, but that's not the issue before us. The issue before us is that the Congress approved that money. It needs to be released. That's why this McKay is in a little bit of trouble for trying to figure out how to stop it, because once Congress releases the money, it's got to go, and the president knows that they're at war with Russia, and they are a very corrupt country. But it was all about Biden, and that's, and again, would I take him out of office for it? No, but it did happen in my view, in my humble view. Mm-hmm. Right. Whoops, there's my guest. So that means I got to go. But
okay, very good, Bob. Good talking with you.
always a pleasure. Thanks very much for the phone call. And let's see, who did I miss this time? Here we go. Call ended. Oh no. Let me see. Here it is. I got it. Now I'm figuring out this system. I really am. Let it ring. Let it ring. Let it ring. They called me back. Hello? Hello? Hello?
Please leave your message for...
Nah, he'll call back. He knows I tried to call him, and he's trying to call me. My next guest, and that's who we're talking about, is Adele from Hoosler from the Yonkers Tribune. But I'd like to talk with Jake a little bit, and when he calls back, we'll lock him in. Jake, I noticed you gave me the odds, you as a handicapper. The Bruins, Capitals, and Lightning are all 8-1. The
Islanders have the...
All righty, that we want. Hold, please. We will be right with you. All righty, where was I? I want to finish up with you, and then we'll get to our guest.
Yeah, the Islanders have the second best odds to win the Cup.
10-1. Where are the Rangers? 60-1. Senators 750-1. Don't put your money on that. Let me see who that is. We could have two different guests here, but we're gonna lock them both in, and then I'll sort it out. We'll be back with Jake in just a minute. Let's see who's on This should be Del. Is that you?
Yes, it is. Good morning, Bob. How are you this
All
morning?
right, stay right there. We're going to see who's on the other line and reschedule them because I believe that they are on at 8:35 and not 8:20. Good morning. You're on Radio Westchester.
Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. You're in the bottom half of the hour, 8:35 right through 9. So
I'll call back.
All right, thanks, man. That, of course, A.J. Woodson, the managing editor and publisher of Black Westchester Magazine. But with us right now that we have a whole bunch of phones, all we got to do is get it coordinated. This is really good. Sorry. Del Husler is the editor-in-chief and publisher of, did I say the Yonkers Tribune? I meant the Yonkers Insider. I can go a lot of places with that. Anyway, sorry. Good morning, Del Husler. How are you, sir?
Good morning. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure to be on the show with you, Bob. Thank you so much.
It's a pleasure to have you, and we thank you for taking your time. We certainly live in interesting times. The biggest story that we've been looking at coming out of your city that we were hoping you could comment on is all this money being set aside for schools. Is it indeed? Yes. Are they going to spend it? Are they going to be able to do it? And where in God's name are they going to get the money from?
That's also true, yes. And also, whenever the state does give us money, the question always is, where does that money really go? Do we have an accountability as to where the money goes? Remember years ago, as we talked about last week, money was lost. So
$55 million.
System and where's the accountability?
I would love to know where that $55 million went.
Absolutely, no, me too, actually, because that seems to be the whole thing. Also, us getting the money is sometimes a problem. But the other problem is we don't know where that money goes in the Board of Education. Where that really money does go, and where's the accounting for all that stuff? Well,
in your case, is it not intermingled with the city's money, and does that not create a problem? I mean,
yes.
Your board is
because also now the Board of Education now is also part of the city government as well. So sometimes it becomes commingled a little bit. So that's another issue as well.
It does become commingled. Now, is there a separate bucket in the Yonkers budget where that is accounted for? Like when you follow up on these stories?
Yes, I believe with the Yonkers Board of Education, there is a budget line for the Yonkers Board of Education. The City Council votes on, and then basically after the City Council votes on it, I don't think there's anything that the city does on it in terms of looking at these issues. That's why I think there should be greater accountability on these issues, because we need to really know where our taxpayer dollars do go in terms of the Board of Education.
Well, where are they going to get the money from these schools? Are they looking to the state, the federal government? Are they going to float a bond?
I think it's more in my interviews with Mayor Spano, it has been looking more from the state, also looking more from the federal government as well. But like I say, the New York State from the recent reports is facing a $1.6 billion budget deficit in New York State. So it may be kind of tough next year for us to be able to get money.
I guess it will be. What else is going on in your city?
Basically, just getting ready for the holidays. It's kind of a quiet time, but sometimes but when covering the city of Yonkers, there's always something to cover every day because Yonkers is always the gift that keeps on giving. Because when you think there's no story on a certain day, something always seems to pop up.
Something does always pop up there. I know that your colleague Hezi Harris always seems to be fighting with the police department and the mayor and the powers that be there. What is it? Is it the size of your city that makes for this kind of conflict? Is it the way it's organized?
I think I think those are all reasons. Also, I think all of us see all of ourselves are like a little village and everything. Even though we're a big city, it's all like a little village where people talk here and people talk there. You have a lot of gossiping that goes on, more or less, and it makes it hard. And when you have these kind of confrontation and fights.
We're talking with Delphine Huschler. He is the editor-in-chief and publisher of the Yonkers Insider. What is your top story this week? What have you been following?
What I've been following this week actually was the county issue in terms of this proposed 52% raise.
What did you think?
I think it's obscene, really, to be honest about it, because this actually should have been something. Actually, from what I understand from my investigation and my research, there's supposed to be a review board that's supposed to go through the process of reviewing the raise.
I do believe that they will do that. I think that they will do that.
I hope so. And also, how come this wasn't brought up before the election?
We asked
so the voters could have known about it before they voted.
We asked George Latimer that the other day. He said the budget was not there. Well, actually, the budget was done, but this was such a small part of the budget. But I think you and I both know that elected officials never discuss the budget before the election. Never, ever, ever, which is unfortunate, but they don't.
True. That's true. No, absolutely. And plus, like the raise package will cost $500,000. So that's half of the tax cut.
Yes. Well, one of the things that did come out, because we had the county executive on for 30 minutes, and if you want to listen in, we have him on every Monday at 8:20. No, 7:20. Excuse me. And let me double check that. Let me check my source. 7:35. You'll excuse me. But we asked him about that, and one of the things I was not aware of is that most of these people hadn't had raises since 2005. Quite a remarkable. I did not know that.
Oh, absolutely. There's no doubt about that.
So what else are you following? What else? If we turn to the Yonkers Insider right now, what am I going to see?
Just stuff that pops across my desk each day, more or less. Always trying to inform the residents of Yonkers and Westchester on news that happens, and always trying to keep them in the loop in terms of keeping them informed. That's been my basis of my blog for the last 16 years of trying to provide news, all kinds of news to all the residents of Westchester County and Yonkers, and it's been my pleasure to do it. And I have my blog each day and post every day at www.yonkersinsider.blogspot.com. Also, if anyone would like to do an interview with me, I do Facebook Live. You can always call me on my cell phone at 914-888-3069.
Give it out again.
914-888-3069.
Okay, thank you very much, Del. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving, you and yours.
You too. Have a great Thanksgiving, and I'll talk to you next Tuesday morning. Thank you so
much, I will talk
Bob.
to you then. Del Huschler, he is the managing editor and the publisher of the Yonkers Insider. Let's take another look at the weather, and then in sports. Chris will give you the weather in sports. I'm going to lower the heat in here, and then we will be back with none other than A.J. Woodson, the editor-in-chief of Black Westchester Magazine. Chris, you're up.
First, we'll start with the sports. The Rangers defeated Minnesota 3-2 in overtime last night. Matt Zuccarello's return to Madison Square Garden after being traded at last year's trade deadline. Hopefully the studio survives this sports and weather report. Tony DeAngelo scored 32 seconds into OT for the game winner. For the Rangers, Henrik Lundqvist moves into fifth alone all-time on the NHL wins list, 455. The Islanders' 17-game points game streak, that was snapped last night as they got shut out in Anaheim by the Ducks 3-0. In the NBA, Brooklyn defeated Cleveland 108-106. Monday Night Football, Baltimore handled the Rams easily, 45-6. Lamar Jackson, 5 touchdown passes thrown. Tonight, only one local in action. Minnesota is in Newark to take on the Devils. Now moving to the weather. It is now 40 degrees here in New Rochelle, getting up to 60, near 60 today, and sunny most of the day. Tonight, it will be clear with a high in the low 40s. Tomorrow, scattered showers in the afternoon, highs in the mid-50s. On Thanksgiving, a mix of sun and clouds, high of 48. And on Black Friday, sunny but cold, high only in the low 40s. And weather is brought to you exclusively by United Hebrew of New Rochelle, voted one of America's best rehabilitation and senior care campuses. It's right here in New Rochelle. Visit uhgc.com. And I am Chris Conway for Radio Westchester.
Thank you very much, Chris. As you saw, I knocked down my microphone again. If you knew how many wires were back here, actually you do, and
Yes.
We've got to get them all pinned to the wall. But since we're going to be reorganizing the studio yet one more time, no sense to do that. So I hooked the mic wire on my chair, and when I just lowered the heat. So
It was getting a little hot in here, I noticed.
just a little hot, and of course, all the hot air. Not generated by me, of course. All right, let's look at what's coming up. We're going to talk with A.J. Woodson in a couple of minutes. He will be calling on our Newsmaker line. We have a lot to talk with him about, which includes what Tom called. Finally, they seem to be moving some dirt over at Memorial Field, and we want to ask him about that. Also, I want to see what he knows about the sewer issue that we discussed with the mayor, and then Sean Patterson Howard, who will be talking later in the week about that as well. She inherited that headache. Jake, we have one more question for you before we go to A.J. Woodson, and we got a few minutes. What's your take on last night's game, and what was the spread on it anyway? I mean, it was just an enormous, what is it, 48-3 or something?
I think they were favored by 5.
They were
How
favored.
exciting is that quarterback?
Jackson.
Yeah, he's probably the biggest star now in the NFL.
Well, we brought this up earlier today. Chris and I had a gentleman's disagreement that he wanted cake and I didn't bring any. But the other disagreement we had was...
Still mad about that.
What kind of cake do you like?
See?
I like the ice cream cake
I
myself.
prefer buns. Anyway, if a quarterback is going to come out of the pocket that much and run the ball, shouldn't he be tackled like anybody else?
Of course.
Yes!
That
Chris,
will never
2-1,
be the
you
case.
lose.
That won't be
That's
the
the
case.
rule. But my point was that they gave the quarterback the out of sliding to avoid getting hit.
Okay, but you know what? I propose
And
this
you don't
rule.
like that rule.
No, because because what you've got is a protected player who now is really playing another position. If he is going to go, okay, I tell you what, wherever the new first yard line is, if he goes beyond that line, he's fair game.
Well, this is also...
Pop him till his eye teeth come out.
He's the NFL's newest star, and the NFL is going to do anything in its power to protect him. You remember RG3, right?
Yeah, sure I do.
Really exciting.
Mm-hmm.
Same type of player. He got crushed.
Yeah, well, then don't do that.
And I believe he is Jackson's backup now. He's the third string quarterback on the Ravens.
Third string quarterback on the Ravens. Okay, who else is a backup quarterback that would surprise us? Like whatever happened to Geno Smith and whatever happened to...
I saw him holding a clipboard a couple weeks ago. I forget what squad he was on, but he is a backup.
I don't know. I do remember the Geno Smith era, though, as a Jet fan. So once he became a backup and then a third stringer somewhere else, you kind of lose track of.
And then, now there was that.
Yeah, Jackson begged the Giants to draft him, and the Giants passed on him.
About 3 years ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's because Matt Manning was still, at least they thought he was still in his prime. It's probably why they didn't do it.
A lot of teams passed on Jackson.
No, but
He went
the whole
late
thing
in the
is
first
I don't know. He's an effective back. I mean, I know they call it quarterback. He is an effective back. If you're going to play that position, you can't have it both ways. It's the same thing. If a hockey goalie comes out of the crease beyond the trapezoid, you ought to be able to hit him.
No.
Why not?
Because you can't have games, you can't have seasons ruined with
then
goalies getting hurt and having
Right.
backups come in.
But they don't come out of the trapezoid. They don't anyway. You don't see them coming
No,
up.
they
here.
don't.
Yeah, so, just you can't. I mean, it's just not fair. It's not fair to everybody else on the rink or, in the case, football field, whatever. Now, CTE's back in the news again. It always is. Do you think the players care?
Yes, I would think so. The majority of them.
Well,
a lot of them just love the game so much they.
Which I can relate to.
And a lot of these guys, they're in their early 20s. They probably think they're indestructible. Whereas guys now in their 30s and their 40s.
Who don't know their own
And
names.
their 50s now exhibit symptoms.
I have a soft spot for those guys. I really do, because they love the game and all of that. Although some people, who was the Andrew Luck said, I got to get out of here. And some guys did get out of here when they're 30. But before your time, gentlemen, the guy who quit at 30 at the top of his game was Brown.
Mm-hmm. Barry Sanders as well.
When did Barry Sanders? Could he still play when he quit?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
He was in his early 30s.
If he was even that old. Another Lion, Calvin Johnson, the best receiver in the NFL, also retired way early.
Because of that?
Because he was just, the injuries were starting to pile up, and it was harder for him to get out of bed every morning.
I can't even imagine what it's like to be a lineman on Monday morning. I can't even imagine, and it's just so stressful. Who's the other guy? Tiki Barber. Didn't he retire early as well?
I believe so.
Yeah, a couple of them
He
did.
had his eye towards broadcasting. I know he went right to the Today Show.
He went right to that. Well, the guy who's really made a career for himself is Michael Strahan.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of money now. He probably makes as much as he did when he was in football.
Yeah.
Probably.
How do I get to that level of broadcasting?
I don't know. I would love to see you host a $100,000 pyramid, though, on ABC Sunday nights. That would be interesting.
$100,000 pyramid? What is that?
That's remember the game show that Dick Clark used to host. The 25.
Oh, the 100. I could do it.
ABC brought it back again once a week, and Michael Strahan's the host.
Michael Strahan's hosts. You know what's interesting? He's not the most articulate guy in the world for a talk show host.
A very weird voice.
But he's good looking.
But he's likable and
he's likable and good looking, like me.
Yes, exactly like
Well, that's what they say in
I
Harrison.
moved AJ, and now he'll be calling back. What's that?
That's what they say in Harrison.
No, that's what they say. The Golden Girls say that to me. We're golden, I'm white-haired, silver fox. That's my new name. So, are you starting to look at scores? Will we get some scores from you on Wednesday, since we'll
For
probably
Thanksgiving?
be yeah.
A Thanksgiving game, sure.
Yeah, we got 3 games on Thursday.
So tomorrow we'll get his
slate.
picks for Wednesday. Who are you beginning to like? Who's percolating in that little mind of yours?
Well, I'm from upstate, so I'm glad the Bills are finally get a Thanksgiving game. They're playing the Cowboys in Dallas, of course. They're always in Dallas.
That's the best game of the
Is that?
of Thanksgiving, yeah.
Okay.
And then the Bears-Lions should be pretty ugly.
When you say pretty ugly, what that means?
Two just bad teams.
Okay.
Nothing too exciting.
Yeah, that game is no silver-haired fox.
No.
How could you just only won me? Let's see. Now, what about what did I want to ask you about? There was another football game I needed to ask you about. Now I can't remember a thing. Does anybody care that I can't remember anything? That my brain is going away on me? Have the folks over at the cigar stores are they upset that you've been on a losing streak?
They have shunned me.
They have shunned.
Yes.
All right, we're headed to the bottom of the hour, which means we have to do weather one more time. We go to Chris, and Chris, share the sports. And if you want to comment on the sports, I would suggest that you do. So let's see.
Some crazy weather we're having here.
I'm roasting in here.
Westchester.
I just had to.
It's like a spring day.
I'm telling you. Chris?
Are we doing sports or are we doing weather, Bob?
You're doing weather first.
All right, we'll start with weather. It is.
Don't forget the traffic.
You can never forget the traffic, especially with Bob reminding me every 5 minutes to do traffic. That does not exist. 40 degrees here in New Rochelle. It will be sunny. Highs in the upper 50s, approaching 60 degrees. Kind of an October afternoon instead
sunny.
of a late November one. Tonight will be clear in the low 40s. Tomorrow, scattered showers in the afternoon. Highs in the mid-50s. Thanksgiving Day, mix of sun and clouds. 48 is your high. Friday, Black Friday, will be sunny in the low 40s. But if you're out at 5 a.m. trying to get into stores, it'll be in the 20s until the sun comes up. So bring your coat, scarf, gloves, etc. Weather is brought to you exclusively by United Hebrew of New Rochelle, voted one of America's best rehabilitation and senior care campuses. It's right here in New Rochelle. Visit uhgc.com. And a quick look at the scores from last night. The Rangers defeated Minnesota 3-2 in overtime. The Islanders' 17-game point scoring streak, that was snapped. Anaheim shut them out 3-0. The Brooklyn Nets defeated Cleveland 108-106. Monday Night Football. Baltimore 45, the Rams 6. Tonight, the only local in action, the New Jersey Devils, they host Minnesota. And that's sports. I'm Chris Conway for Radio Westchester. And
I know I wasn't thinking. I was just going to ask you to do sports because I was getting ready to call.
in sports, the Rangers defeated Minnesota 3-2 in overtime.
Shows how much I was paying attention. Shut up, Jake. You didn't say anything, but your tone of silence, private busy line. Oh, because I forgot to turn it off. Yeah, see, I put him on and then I didn't turn him off. See, I knew I had a technical problem. And so you talk to him, say something.
As long as the microphone stays on the table, it doesn't crash, as long as the equipment is maybe not working 100%, but as long as Bob's not crashing into it, I think we're good. As Bob tries to
I know you're a Star Wars fan. Now, did you see that a script for the movie was actually leaked and sold on eBay?
It was? How much did it sell for?
Well, they found out that it was up for auction on eBay, and someone associated with the film actually bought it before it could be.
Oh, wow. So it's back out of circulation?
It is out of circulation.
No,
that's terrible security.
That is awful. How do you let a movie script, one of the biggest movies of the year, not only get out, but get sold on eBay, for goodness sakes?
This thing's going to drop. It's hanging. Your mic's
You're
about
lucky
to drop.
you have a guardian angel here in Jake.
Very long arms.
Shut up.
He's saving you from doom every 5 minutes.
I have a solution for my long arms. We're back. Or at least I'm back. They were here. I'm having some technical difficulties, not the least of which is I'm so tangled up.
He's not leaving the studio today. He'll be here tomorrow because he can't get out of his chair.
I'm practically tied to the chair.
I think the Golden Girls and Harrison really knocked you for a loop.
Oh my God! I'm sitting on my back cushion. It's look at me. It's like the time once. AJ, we're gonna get to you in a second. But once when I was on the air at another radio station, in the early morning hours. You remember, Chris? I'd be there all by myself. You'd be back in the newsroom. So my shirt fell out of my pants. So I opened my pants up, fixed my shirt. Nobody can see. I rebuttoned the shirt,
Except for the security cameras.
No, but I had the mic. I had buttoned up the mic all the way to here, and I made an idiot of myself. All righty, let's go to the telephone. We await his. He now has his signature opening. He's the editor-in-chief of Black Westchester Magazine. Please welcome A.J. Woodson. Good morning, A.J.
Good morning. And I see getting some letters from Harrison women get you distracted all day, huh?
Man, I'm telling you, those Harrison women, they call themselves the Golden Girls. So obviously they're probably in my age group, and that's a good thing. So, yeah, you know how it is. You can't blame them.
I wish they included photos.
No, this isn't a dating website, but we do news, and of course, if the people want to send me love letters or other trinkets, you can. We accept them. All right, let's get down to cases. A.J. Woodson is our guest. He's the editor-in-chief of Black Westchester Magazine. We got a call from a real estate agent before. He said the cranes are operating, or the bulldozers are operating in Memorial Field. What's happening?
Well, I did hear that. I'm not sure where he's from.
He's from Pelham, right next door.
Okay, I disagree that everything happened once Richard Thomas got out of office. Like, people were, like, it was a conspiracy against him. And I also want to say this Memorial Field mess predates Richard Thomas as well.
It predates everybody, doesn't it?
You can't blame the everything that happened in Memorial Field on Richard Thomas. But I think you did say some of the situations that Richard Thomas faced were self-inflicted.
Yes.
He had this innate ability of playing both victor and victim very well. And unfortunately, he loves to do paper dumps, like you just said. Because when he was councilman, I had a half a file cabinet that first month I met him of papers to prove, whatever the point he was trying to make. He's very good in creating a narrative and running with it, much like Trump. You can't buy all of that. But unfortunately with Mount Vernon, you have to talk to 6 and 7 people before you get near the truth.
And you do that for a living, my friend.
The city of Mount Vernon is peeling an onion every time. You got to peel a layer and peel a layer. You think you're getting close to the story, and you find out there's 24 more layers you still got to peel. So unfortunately, but
that's why you're here. You were the peeler in chief.
And I will say, but to the comment that was made, they was able to do everything right after he left. It wasn't a conspiracy against him, and I think that takes away from the work that the person who replaced him did.
Oh, well, I think, yeah, and I don't think he meant that, nor did I. I mean, certainly Andre Wallace has steadied the ship, and we're all very hopeful for Sean Patterson Howard. Right. But there were aspects to it. Why do you think, for example, and this is a fun conversation, I've been beating like a rented mule a guy I used to admire, the comptroller. And I saw the letters, and I guess you did too. They begged him to come in and do forensic audits. They begged him to look at the city. They came in, and then a day later they left under mysterious circumstances. Why do you think that happened?
Well, I think the state has failed Mount Vernon on every level. The governor was begged to come in on some situation dealing with Richard Thomas.
That too, then, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the state failed Mount Vernon, and I almost it's hard to believe that it's not by design sometimes.
Well, I'm not a very conspiratorial guy, but in fact, what I've always been surprised at, and I know you won't mind my going there. Had I been a citizen of Mount Vernon and I'd be black, that is one time that I would raise the race card. You know, if we were a white city, would you leave us to spin like this? Would you really?
Well, I have to, and I've been beating this dead horse for months. I also, white or black, the resident has a responsibility as well. All of the municipalities that circle Mount Vernon, that neighbor Mount Vernon, none of those residents would tolerate the kind of behavior
that's
that
true.
Mount Vernon accepts. And as long as Mount Vernon continues to accept it, it will not change. It will not matter who's sitting in City Hall. This behavior will continue going on until Mount Vernon is sick and tired of being sick and tired, and they demand better. And sometimes, we wait for an elected official to be our savior and chief. A lot. Sean Patterson Howard, with all the best intentions, can't clean up and fix Mount Vernon by herself.
That's true.
She's going. Residents have to stop voting on Election Day and then going to sleep for 4 years and then waking back up for Election Day and expecting things to change. So I just want to, give a fuller picture. It's not, it's not always all the elected officials. I mean, they've done enough on their own.
You know what? You're right. You're certainly, you've raised this point before rather eloquently, and you've done it again. But maybe I put too much faith in. But one of the things that we pay a lot of our tax dollars for government to do is to help us in times of need. Now, I
agree with that.
And what would it have taken? And you know what? Had the comptroller come in, and some of the things that were being alleged by Mayor Thomas, they would have been disproved or not. And some of the things that were alleged to have been done by Mr. Thomas, it might have been his own undoing. But why didn't they come in? Why didn't they do it? Why did people have to beg? Why did they bail? And Lyndon Williams has said on these broadcasts that he has written to the Attorney General, and that he has written to the District Attorney about Memorial Field, and all he gets is crickets.
The county has failed Mount Vernon as well, as far as the District Attorney's office has failed dealing with the corruption in Mount Vernon. I do want to say, though, as far as the bulldozers moving after Richard Thomas left.
Oh, no, you made that clear.
Richard Thomas was more concerned on blaming the prior administration of illegal dumping. He could have had that move by now. Had had Richard Thomas actually spent more time removing it and then finding out who did it later, but removing it and handing it over to the county, he, it's one of those things that no matter what he did, he would still be in office. He would have won the election. He would have won the primary because he almost won the primary.
Yes.
With a corruption case coming up in 13 days, he almost won. But had he spent more time, sometimes we have to, and this is not just him. This is period. We have to stop the finger pointing. Sometimes we need to solve the problem, and then move forward. Like Mount Vernon has no more time for finger pointing. It's time for everybody to just do what they're supposed to do, and we'll punish. We're going through the whole thing of punishing people. Maybe we have to do that later. Maybe right now we really just need the stuff to be done.
One of the things that came up in my conversations with him, and I was going to ask Sean Patterson Howard about this one. Again, my guest is A.J. Woodson. He's the editor-in-chief of Black Westchester Magazine. They, of course, cover Mount Vernon very, very closely, as well as the rest of the county, but Mount Vernon is their specialty for sure. One of the things that came up is the city is still trying to deal with the sewers, and they got a gun pointed to their head, at least according to the former mayor, a gun pointed to their head by the federal government for that could amount to fines. I mean, it never really happens, of millions of dollars. Has either Andre Wallace today, or do you think Sean Patterson Howard knows that she's got to proceed with this? And why do you think the sewers haven't been done yet?
Well, I understand that work has been being done. They had to inspect the sewers. They had to go down and look through, miles and miles of the sewer stuff. They brought the equipment to do it. The council had approved it. I think it's a lengthy process. I think that I can't say that nothing is being done. And I really don't, because again, I want to get everything done so I can leave town. So I'm really not sure where it is right now. I'll be back on it when I get back.
Okay. Well, we're glad that you are on a vacation, and I really appreciate you having called in even while you were on your way to be with family.
So I've been here all week. I've been here since last week. I put Westchester in my rear view and I left.
Oh, well, that was a smart thing to do. Any stories that you left on the table that you'll be picking up when you come back, AJ?
Well, the whole thing with the hospital closing in Mount Vernon.
Yes.
And that whole thing, and the state not coming in to do anything. But in Dutchess County and Poughkeepsie, there's almost $100 million being given to the lieutenant governor was there with the groundbreaking, and they're dedicating a whole new expansion to the hospital, and I just in a city that's like 39,000 compared to a city close to 80,000 that really needs it. I was a little pulled back by that, and again, you can tell the difference, a tale of two cities, even a tale of two counties. You know what I mean? So
sure. When's the last time the governor visited Mount Vernon?
If he did during the election,
and that's
when we see everybody.
Everybody comes.
Hillary came through when she was running for office, and we see everybody when they're running for office. Because Mount Vernon is such a big Democratic bloc, so they have to show their face. They usually pick a couple of churches, Grace Baptist, maybe Shiloh Baptist in Rochelle.
Glad you brought that up. As we pass to 8:53, in all of my conversations with mayors and other elected officials in Mount Vernon over the years, I've learned, and to some degree, not to probably the expertise you have, but the churches are very powerful in Mount Vernon, the pastors. Why is that so?
Well, you have, even back in the civil rights movement, the civil rights.
Well, that I knew, yeah.
That would be. You have an audience, like you want to go. These congregations. You got several. When they couldn't get the word out, we didn't have social media back in this. You would meet with all the pastors, and the pastors would get all the word out on Sunday, and Monday they would have that bus strike, or whatever, because they have such an audience, and the audience is your churchgoers are usually sold on the pastor, so they have influence with them. So you want to reach out to a whole bunch of people. Unfortunately, some of the bigger churches in Mount Vernon are filled with people that don't live in Mount Vernon, so they can't vote anyway. So, like Grace and Centennial, even Centennial, a good portion of their congregation are not from Mount Vernon. So if you were running in the Mount Vernon race,
I didn't realize that. That's an interesting thing because these cities are so packed together.
And Grace Baptist Church, they got people that come from Philly, and I don't know, there's people that come from Jersey and Long
that is a
Island.
very popular church. The Grace Baptist Church is iconic.
If you're running in the Mount Vernon race, you have to go there, but there's a good portion of people that don't live, that can't vote for you anyway.
Interesting, very, very interesting. Because I'll often hear during when for example, when Richard Thomas's star, the former mayor, when his star was fading, I would often hear, well, he still has the pastors, and I'd say, wow, that's a pretty powerful thing for an elected official to be able to hang his hat on that.
I don't think that was true.
No, but just the fact that even that would be a consideration was meaningful to me. Yeah, I understand that.
I mean, you know what? There were certain pastors, like Centennial, my pastor, they were giving him the benefit of the doubt when he comes to them and says he needs prayer, and that is what it is they do, even though the city is the way it is, and they will do that. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't mean they support you still, but they will pray for you and give you that spiritual encouragement because that's what you said you needed. But that doesn't.
I need that spiritual
encouragement. The pastors have not always spoken up. That's not just a Mount Vernon thing. That's the black church. The role the black church plays now, as compared to like in the '60s, is not the same. So,
well, one of the things that I've always come to learn, and this goes, of course, back in history, but black churches were where black folks could meet peacefully and safely.
Right.
And so that's how all that evolved. Well, I guess we should let you go, but we can't let you go without giving a little Thanksgiving to you. You have been, you and of course your partner, Damon Jones. You guys have been great supporters of what we tried to do here and contributed so much to the program and certainly so much to the city of Mount Vernon. So we're here thankful for you and Damon and your magazine. And thank you so much for helping us get off the ground the way you have, and continue good luck with what you do.
I want to thank you for all that you do.
Appreciate that.
Your dedication to the news and the region. I mean, I've been with you for 3 stations now. Well, 2 stations and now your own station.
Yeah, 3 stations.
Right. So, just your dedication to getting the local news out and making sure that all sides are represented when that's at all possible. You need to be applauded. And what you've done to create your own station at the station is incredible. I respect that a lot.
Well, thanks. And I know you've come by, and we encourage anyone to come by. And folks, you don't have to agree with us. You can disagree, and you will be met with open arms, or in my case, an open mouth. But listen, enjoy your family. Enjoy the holiday. Get some good rest, because when you come back, we're going to be headed to an election in a year, if you could believe that.
Right.
Oh, man.
And enjoy the holiday, and I was going to say enjoy the Golden Girls, but no.
All right, fine. Enjoy the Golden Girls. Thank you very much. A.J. Woodson, everybody, thank you so much. He's the editor-in-chief of Black Westchester Magazine, and I'll remember to turn that off now. It's 8:58. We should be hearing from the good doctor in a few minutes. He, of course, Dr. Jack Breslin. We may read these letters again. These letters are really cool, and especially from the Golden Girls, which will explain. Jake's got a great look on his face, but it's that time as we head to the top of a new hour. And, of course, the new hour is brought to you by the United Hebrew of New Rochelle, a top-rated campus of senior care. Visit uhgc.com. Plug in virtual reality, aging issues management, aging issues radio, the law firm of Pena & Khan, and Dominic Cigars. And we will hear from Dominic Cigars' Jake Schaefer tomorrow with the Thanksgiving football picks. Dominic's Fine Cigars, licensed retailer with a big selection, including Arturo Fuente, Padrons, and more. Dominic's Fine Cigars, located at Boston Post Road. And now it's time for the traffic with our very own Chris Conway, who's jealous of my Golden Girls.
Well, I mean, how can you not be jealous of the Silver Fox?
Ah, the Silver Fox. I bring you the fox himself.
Moving to the weather, it is warming up now, 40 degrees here.
Oh, it's hot in here,
New
boy.
Rochelle. It's about 140 in the studio here.
That's because the fox is present.
That's true. Today will be sunny, highs in the upper 50s towards 60. Pretty much a perfect day, a mid-October day here in late November. Tonight, it'll be clear, highs in the low 40s. Tomorrow, scattered showers, probably in the afternoon, highs in the mid-50s. Thanksgiving Day on Thursday, mix of sun and clouds, high 48. Friday, Black Friday, it will be sunny but cold with highs only in the low 40s. Weather is brought to you exclusively by United Hebrew of New Rochelle, voted one of America's best rehabilitation and senior care campuses. It's right here in New Rochelle. Visit uhgc.com. And I'm Chris Conway for Radio Westchester. And now back to the Silver Fox.
The Silver Fox himself. You know, we should make that a handle. You're proud of yourself, aren't you? The Silver Fox here. Maybe we need ads on the building. The Silver... Your wife came up with it? Your wife has excellent taste. My goodness, I knew I loved what, Chris? What?
She has taste. Excellent.
Sour taste. The Silver Fox. That's right. Here I am. So we even got a visit today from our first homeless person popped in. Not the guy that was going to blow up the train station on day one, but a different guy came in and actually said hello.
I've stopped them. There've been a couple.
Oh, there've been a couple. You usually stop them. Chris let him walk right in. And after my monologue today, God only knows that somebody's good. But you know what? That's what we do here. And for those who, and we rarely give people a hard time, but when we criticize an issue, we want them to know that they are more than welcome here. And again, they'll be valued with open arms. Our point here is to get the word out. We take positions occasionally, as we did this morning. It doesn't make us right. We do not have a corner on the truth. We only seek to get it. This is Radio Westchester. Now, one of the things I see our next guest hobbling in. He's not hobbling. He's walking. In fact, proving our point, if you ever take the car to the train station, there's nowhere to park your car and not come by our beautiful radio station. Or if you park out front, or you take the bus, or you walk down from North Avenue, we are the station at the station. In fact, I'm going to enjoy our next guest because he is a media guy. He is the professor of mass communication and ethics. Oh, go get right in, Doc. We're ready to go. We're going. You got to use that seat this time. I want you to meet. You should remember Chris from the old days. Okay. All right. You take a seat. You have a bad memory? No, take a seat. And would you make some room for his coffee and his newspapers and his gun and all the rest of it, the AK-47. He's got a manuscript with him, the New York Times, the Post, the Sentinel, the Kingston Trio, whatever it was that you were running up there. The Kingston Freeman. It's always great to have this guy with us. And wait till I tell him about the letters I'm getting. He'll be so pleased. In fact, we're going to, as the good doctor gets settled, of course, our next guest is, excuse me. Oh, I almost choked on my own tongue. Do you realize that, Chris?
Would have made for great radio.
Anyway, I will introduce you two in a moment, but this was a great letter. I got letters for the first time, Doc. Well, at least we read them out. And look at this. The gals in Harrison call you the Silver Fox. This was letter number 4 today. How do you keep your youthful appearance? The Golden Girls from Harrison. What do you think of that, Professor Breslin?
Was that to you or me?
Oh, that's right. You have silver hair, too. All right, let's get resettled. Enough of me pruning or preening, I guess it is, my Silver Fox ways. Professor, it's great to have you. Yes, Chris Conway, you remember, was doing traffic and weather back when we first met, back in the mid of the last decade. And he's now joined us here to do similar stuff here and also keep me honest, which is not easy to do. Professor, so much going on. I want to start with something that's been bugging me on a national level, and then we'll talk about something on a local level because you often encourage me on how to deal with it. On a national level, we are observing an absolute almost manufactured narrative based with tiny pretext, or small pretext at any rate, that it wasn't the Russians who hacked us, it was their enemies, the Ukrainians. Now, I guess this has always happened, but how are we in the news supposed to deal with it besides saying it and then go bang our heads against the wall?
Well, you can ignore it, or are we talking as ordinary citizens, or are we talking as journalists?
Well, I don't like what it says about ordinary citizens, but as journalists, what can we do about it other than report it?
You report it and move on. I don't think there's much analysis that can be done, considering what's been going on the last 2.5 years of just someone who just fabricates and is divorced from reality and is surrounded by people who support or encourage that kind of behavior.
Do you think ultimately, because obviously this isn't the first time and you know the history of journalism better than we do, do you think that ultimately the Republican Party will pay a price, or at least those senators and congressmen and women who ignore the obvious will pay a price, or do you think the public isn't engaged enough for that to happen?
I think this is going to be a very surprising election, that it could be, I hope, one of the largest turnouts ever, that people from the last time will realize that their vote does count, that they realize after he is impeached and not convicted by the Senate, that the only way to remove this person and restore any kind of sanity to the White House and any kind of civil discourse to our great nation is to vote him out of office, that they will come and do that. Meanwhile, those on the other side of the aisle who have supported him all the way to the point of supporting this fantasy and these, I wouldn't even call them arguments that are brought forth, and the refusal to protect and defend the Constitution, to just ignore it and attempt to become a dictator, they will pay the price.
You do believe that they will?
That there will be a revolution in the Republican Party after he leaves office, and those who support him will leave office as well. It could take years, as will the healing and going back to normalcy, whatever that is, but reversing policies that, if you want to call them policies, actions that he has made. It will take quite some time for whoever defeats him and becomes the president to restore us to the dignity that we have on the world scene and try to restore some kind of unity in our country.
Well,
we are free to disagree, but not in the way that it's happening now.
Well,
that's very dangerous.
And now what happens is if you disagree on either side, you are chastised or eliminated, as we see in the far left. Now, there was a piece in the Times today, I'm sure you saw it. I saved it for you, and now I can't find it, which happens on my small little desk here, but the theme is consistent with many other editorials I'm seeing. Donald Trump, one of the reasons that he got elected, or there were several reasons within that I think the Democrats and the rest of the country need to look at, is immigration's probably the best example. We've got 20 million people here that got here illegally. President Reagan tried to solve it, gave them amnesty, and then said we follow the rules and didn't. The Democrats wanted the votes for a while. The Republicans wanted the easy, and so did the Democrats, cheap labor. I mean, half the conservatives I know have Mexicans they know aren't here legally doing their lawn because it's cheaper. We've not solved that problem. The president came into office saying that he would. For good or ill, people were fed up with that. People are fed up with, whether we like it or not, the way the far left and elements within the far left have used the funds that are allocated to people in need, how the Me Too movement and other aspects of the far left movement have gone too far. So people see this and they vote for Trump. They think government doesn't work anymore. They see the hypocrisy that has always existed more clearly because of social media than they ever have. And so many Republicans and Democrats are writing, maybe Trump is what was needed to wake us up. Will that part of it change? Or if the left or the Democrats get back in power, will we move so far left that we're sorry it happened? I know that's a mouthful, but...
As we talked about previously, I have a problem with the left, the right, the moderate labels, because that too often pushes people into a corner that they really should not be. That a person could be liberal on one issue and conservative on the other.
My monologue today was that.
So I think that saying if the Democrats get in, they go too far one way or another, it's hard to predict. But at the same time, I think that article did have, or its opinion piece, it did have a good thesis to it that Trump is not the creator of this. He merely was at the right place at the right time and took advantage of it. Don't give this person any credit for intellectual prowess or being the great manipulator or the great,
No, but he resonated. Who he is resonated with voters.
Exactly. Who he is, his character, and went from the Democratic side to the Republican side and changed many of his stances in order to feed into this growing frenzy. I think back to a minor league baseball game, no, actually it was spring training, down in Tampa at the Yankees facility. And I forget what time of year it was, but this gentleman started this argument in the stands about Obama not being born in the United States. And it's just like, hey, come on, we're here to see a baseball game. Shut up. But that was really the first time that I heard something like this, and it frightened me that someone would say this in public and someone had to have a need to say it, and the reaction of the people in the stands to this. And I think that the birther issue was one of the triggers that Trump certainly went after and showed that there was a part of the voting public that was willing to believe these things. And then it went into immigration. The immigration issue was there before he declared his candidacy. And if you going back to the birther issue, of course, the image that sticks in my mind of him at the airplane hangar up in New Hampshire saying, I am very proud of myself, that thinking that he forced Obama into producing his birth certificate. And like, okay, let's just put this to rest and let's move on with the more pressing issues to our country. But he managed to tap into those issues. And so it's not that he is the remedy or he was the cause. He simply took advantage of it.
He did. But now let's look into the hearts and minds of the people that had, wrong-headed things, and, though, justifiable frustration with the system, the way we're taxed, the way... on all sides, the way unions behave, the way our elected officials give away the store in order to get voted, et cetera, voted in. Not that Trump could solve it, but it was out there. The outrage was out there. Now I'm going to give you a couple of others. My heart was actually broken. I was at, I think I've told you this story before, but we always get new listeners, and it's worth repeating. I took my grandson when he was playing junior hockey, or level below the level he's at now. He's like 14. And it was a rink that had a lot of, and this is not to besmirch Staten Island, a place I've lived and loved, but there were a lot of middle-aged parents there with their kids, early middle age. And a couple of Italian housewives came up to me and said, we heard you do talk radio. Is it true that Michelle Obama is really a man? Now, but they believe this in their bones. Is he really a Muslim? Is she really a man? She looks like a gorilla, doesn't she? And I just wanted to cry. Where the hell does that come from?
One of the ethical conundrums in the academic world is when you get these free textbooks, these exam copies and the desk copies, and these folks come around and offer to buy them from you. Well, do you sell them or not? or a lot of schools will put them all together and donate them to libraries and so forth. And this one gentleman who comes around regularly, he is of that conspiracy theorist. And I just smile, and he doesn't bother with me anymore. But my colleague across the hall, she bought into a lot of this stuff that he was saying. And she'd come back in my office and said, he said this, this, and this. I never heard the Michelle Obama man thing. But some of the most ridiculous
because you
stuff
don't travel in those
the
circles.
world that I just said, you are a very intelligent woman. You have a PhD, at least that's what the paper says. How could you even listen to this man? Now, as professors, we're supposed to be open to ideas and encourage our students to explore. And I never in a classroom say to a student, no, you're wrong. Oh, yes, if it's a what answer, and, who invented the telephone, Samuel Morse, no, it was Alexander Graham Bell, -1. But meanwhile, I try to stay away from a lot of those questions. I ask the how questions. I ask the why questions. So I will never say in a classroom, you're wrong. And I have some colleagues who do, and I disagree with that approach. So I didn't necessarily say that to her, but I just kind of wondered, how could a very intelligent woman who was open to people's ideas just swallow what this guy was saying without turning around to the computer and seeing if there's any factual basis to what he was saying?
What was your take? I mean, and again, I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater here. The reason I bring up these extreme things is those are the nutty things. The Rush Limbaughs and the Sean Hannity's going, Barack Hussein Obama, and then the very transparent, never saying Democratic, always say the Democrat Party, all these little subtle meannesses. That's one thing. But these people have a lot of beefs that they're right about, and they're not being addressed. The middle class is getting crushed.
Yeah, and John McCain, Lord rest him, used to do that too.
Mm-hmm.
That, when he was talking about Barack Hussein Obama, we're in the middle of his campaign.
Mm-hmm.
So he was playing on a certain element that would respond to that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, meanwhile, I think that over the years of my PR journalism career, having these people come into the newsroom and try to sell you some of their theories, and you should write about this and write about that. It wasn't necessarily national. It was local stuff. You kind of got used to it. You never, I tried never to be rude. My editors were quite rude in some cases. Others were more understanding. That these people have a right to come in and talk. Yet at the same time, we had an editorial right to ignore them and not put things in the paper or on the air that were just totally without a kind of factual basis.
Let's move on to some other stuff. 917, some of the groups that are... Well, again, let me go back to one of my original premises here. Do you think that if Trump, whether he's reelected or not, but at the end of his term, do you think the issues that he's been concerned about, do you think the legitimate issues will be addressed? Do you think that the people that saw this election will say we have to change the way we do things too?
Yeah, I think he is able to hit hot-button issues that do attract attention. But the problem is he promises solutions and he never delivers them. We're going to come up with a package on this and we're going to come up with that legislation. He never does. Instead, these knee-jerk executive orders that just create more chaos. And so as a result, I think, yes, he does bring a lot of issues to the agenda that need to be discussed, but really doesn't offer any long-term solutions. They're solutions that get him some publicity and further aggravate his critics, but will not really bring any long-term solutions to the people who are affected.
It is 9:18. My guest is Professor Jack Breslin, Mass Communications and Ethics Professor at Iona College. Fox News, does it come up in your classroom?
Most certainly.
And how does it come up?
I even had a guest speaker the other day who had worked at Fox News. And I'm working on another student who I ran into the other day as a guest speaker next semester.
Mm-hmm.
So I am open to bringing in a variety of people who work in the media in order to give my students a chance to explore the media world. The one course I teach, Introduction to Mass Communication, that is one of the major ideas in the class of career opportunities. So I really don't care where somebody works in the media. If they have valuable advice and experience to pass on to my students, I'm bringing them into the class.
Sure.
And so I've done that. I've had Fox News people in.
Well, as well you should.
When, Allison Camarada, I worked with her at America's Most Wanted. That poor girl had to work with me. No, a great colleague, a wonderful person, and I'm very proud of her success. When she was on Fox and Friends and was the weekend anchor, we had her twice as a guest speaker and opened it up to the entire campus and got a very excellent turnout. We kind of set the ground rules at the beginning. Well, Fox News did, the PR department, that it was not to be promoted outside of Iona, and it wasn't, and that the political questions or arguing with her about Fox's viewpoint, that was not really why she was there, and there were no questions of that nature. But she really had a lot to offer them as far as, her starting out from George Washington University and doing internships and working at ABC for Nightline, assistant to Ted Koppel. She goes to Most Wanted. Koppel says this will ruin your journalism career by going to those tabloid people. And it wound up launching her career. So I always kid her, do you send Koppel a Christmas card? I hope you're doing well. I certainly am. But, the struggles that she has had in her career, and now she's over at CNN. She has not visited us since she left Fox, and the statements she has made about Roger Ailes harassing her. I've heard those twice because I went to a couple of her book signings and also, heard her do an interview. And Ailes certainly did harass her. And she, of course, complained about that.
That's how uncomfortable that is. Again, our guest professor, Jack Breslin. The New York Times, over the past few years, they've gotten their butt kicked a little bit for stories that weren't accurate. What is your take on them? Give us your take on the Times. How balanced are they? Not opinion-wise, we know, but the actual reporting.
Well, I don't work at the Times. I have to look at it from the journalism trade publications that I look at, from people that I talk to. I think it's comparable to the New Orleans Times-Picayune. I might really be going
hell
on
of a
stretch
name,
here.
Chris.
When David Duke ran for governor, I used the case study in class that the editor, John Amos, I even heard him on a panel at our Association of Mass Communication and Journalism, Mass Comm Education Association. We had him on a panel about their coverage of Duke during that campaign. And they admitted it. They said, we covered him like a hurricane. This was pre-Katrina. This man cannot get elected. Of course, the alternative, Edwards, wasn't much good either. But not this out-and-out white supremacist racist. He cannot get elected. So they were totally biased against him. Now, I'm not saying that the person who they're criticizing now is any comparison to that individual. But the approach kind of borders on where they're not writing anything that is knowingly false, but their perspective of constantly pounding away at this and at the fact-checking, I think is their responsibility, but they have taken aside that there really is no good to this person at all. And if something nice happens, so they have a picture or a column or something, a couple of inches, but it's this constant pounding of 3, 4, 5 pages of the 45th president and what the latest issue is.
That's a fair assessment. Now, the paper that intrigues me the most, and now they're starting to do some serious reporting about the president and some of the problems that he's had, is the Wall Street Journal. And the reason why I bring them up is they are owned by the same company as the New York Post, which, besides having the greatest sports section on the planet, is totally on the president's lap. Now, how does the publisher of those publications reconcile that, or does he reconcile it, or she reconcile it when they go to the bank?
Well, having, for the interest of full disclosure, worked in a Murdoch organization, at Fox Broadcasting, there was nobody sitting in the office who was telling us, you are to favor a certain political point of view. During the job interview, nobody asked you what your politics were. I think when you get to a news organization, those could be questions that are asked. But there is the influence there that if you work for one of these organizations, you have to be of a certain mindset. Now, how to prove that, how to do the content analysis to show that there is a particular bias one way or another, that is work that scholars do. Not me. I don't go after that particular type of research. But, there is that influence of we are going to be on one side and we're going to stay over there.
Unfortunately. Okay, tell you what we're going to do. We're going to take a break, and then we're going to give you, well, I would like to think our listeners a treat. We're going to get off politics, and we're going to get off journalism, and we're going to talk about one of your dearest loves, baseball, minor league baseball, the problems in Houston and cheating, the selections for the Hall of Fame, and baseball's integrity and pets. One PDs. When we come back, our guest is Professor Jack Breslin, and if you don't know, in addition to, he also is one of the moderators. I don't know if he coaches of the water polo team, of girls water polo team.
I don't coach.
No, but whatever, water polo team
I'm
at the
college.
mascot. But he is a huge baseball fan, and a great deal of his vacations are spent going to minor league stadiums throughout the country, of which there may be 42 less. That when we return. Let's go to the traffic with Chris Conway.
And some weather throwing, too, just because it's a special treat.
Weather's a special treat?
Yes, as opposed to traffic.
Oh, did I say traffic again? See, years he used to do the traffic. We're adding traffic on Monday. Go ahead.
Well, here's your National Cake Day forecast. It is 47 degrees. It will get up to the upper 50s, maybe even 60. Sunny most of the day. Tonight, clear in the low 40s. Tomorrow, scattered showers, probably in the afternoon, high in the mid-50s. Thanksgiving Day, sun and clouds, 48 degrees. Black Friday, sunny but cold, highs only in the low 40s. And weather is brought to you exclusively by United Hebrew of New Rochelle. Voted one of America's best rehabilitation and senior care campuses. It's right here in New Rochelle. Visit uhgc.com. And I'm Chris Conway for Radio Westchester.
It is 9:26 as we move ahead. The bottom of the hour is brought to you again by our friends at United Hebrew of New Rochelle, a top-rated campus of senior care. Visit uhgc.com. Aging Issues Management, as well as Aging Issues Radio, the law firm of Pena and Kahn, Plug-in Virtual Reality, and Dominic Cigars. Don't forget, tomorrow they will bring you, in this case, Jake's Thanksgiving Picks of the Week. Dominic's Fine Cigars, licensed retailer with a big selection, including Arturo Fuente, Padrons, and more. Dominic's Fine Cigars, located at 204 Boston Post Road. They're open 7 days. All right, a little lighthearted music. We are headed to the holidays. We might talk a little football. But once again, we're with Professor Jack Breslin, mass communications and ethics, but one of his hobbies, and really, he knows a lot about it, baseball. He visits minor league stadiums as part of his vacations each year. And since that's in the news, we thought it would be a nice way to share the holiday celebration with you. Professor, thanks for staying.
Oh, my pleasure.
Here, oops, I put it the wrong mic. Here we go. You probably have seen, given your hobbies, that baseball wants to get rid of 42 minor league teams and change the face of minor league baseball, where people have paid chicken feed anyway. What's your reaction to that? And then we'll bring it into some of the other things going on in baseball.
Outrageous. Now, of course, a footnote, we can talk about this a little bit too. This time of year, I go to NCAA football playoff games.
Okay.
Going to Albany this week. I was going to go to Slippery Rock, but we'll chit-chat about that. Kind of about the same theme of why I enjoy minor leagues is it's the grassroots. That I go to these see small colleges and see everybody go crazy for the football team and see, the beauty of the sport, the beauty of the fans, and the beauty of that cultural aspect of sport. All right, now to minor league baseball. There has been this surge in minor league baseball from the late 70s, early 80s that I had a few days off doing my graduate thesis at Georgia, while somebody else was typing it. I'm not making this up. You actually had to get someone to type it, and they would bring it over to the graduate school, and they put a template over it to make sure the margins were okay. They didn't read it. They just put the template on and then stamped it. Now, of course, your readers and your committee read it. So I had a few days off, and I went down to Savannah trying to find the minor league baseball park. And people go, is this a minor league baseball team here? The Savannah Braves. Well, since then, I did find the Savannah Park, the Savannah Sand Gnats.
Sand Gnats?
Yes, I'm not making that up. They were a Mets minor league team. I saw that, and that was the last year they were there. They moved to Columbia, South Carolina since. The first team I saw, Frederick Keyes, right across the street from the cemetery where Francis Scott Key is buried. So the Keys. And instead of saying, take me out to the ball game, 7th inning, they have their Frederick Keyes. You take out your keys and so forth. Okay. I fell in love with minor league baseball there. So a fanaticism. One day I actually went to a game with the Keys and a game at the Hagerstown Suns and a game at Memorial Stadium. They had a bus trip. Now, the beauty of it is small-town America. Or, there are places like the Brooklyn Cyclones, Staten Island, and middle of New York City. But the majority of them in small towns.
And well, then you have like the Louisville Redbirds and Buffalo Bisons. You have some bigger markets.
Even in the case of Buffalo and Rochester and Syracuse, that's their team. It's downtown.
Right.
And people, this is a community event. This is the major entertainment of the town. When I saw that article about cutting the teams, I said, "This is fake news. They're not actually doing this." So I went and checked some more, and saw the list, and one of them was Binghamton, New York.
Yeah,
where one of our excellent alums, who is rising in his broadcast career, Ian Sachs, was the radio color commentator for them this season, and hope he has a job in the fall, in the summer. But going that night and getting my Tim Tebow bobblehead, and seeing people come out for the bobblehead, but other people, it's a fun little thing. But seeing the people sit through the rain delay, to see their team play. That is baseball. That is the sport. Those are dedicated people. And this plan is just so outrageous. Money is the issue, of course.
Of course it is.
And long time ago, when I complained about the game, a friend of mine said to me, it's a business. How, when are you going to finally realize that? And it's not a sport anymore. And so these teams and these cities that have built these stadiums and given such enormous tax breaks and other little deals to the sacrifices they have made in order to support these teams. And many of the people in the town being hosts to the players, giving them...
They bill it a lot of the lower minors. Even in AAA, they do where they pay garbage.
Yeah, and in some cases, not charging them any rent, letting them stay there, as a host family. What are you saying to these people? The heck with you, you're going to have an empty stadium, as they have in Bridgeport now, because the independent team pulled out, and as they have in Newark, that the Bears pulled out. So they spend all this money building these, and they just walk away. So, like up in Fishkill, the Hudson Valley Renegades, the paper I worked for after, I worked for at the Kingston Freeman, the sports editor became the executive editor and the publisher. How? I don't know. That's all I'll say. But he editorialized about the Renegades, that this was a joke. They shouldn't build a stadium. These teams have such a short life that they're going to have an empty stadium after a few years. Well, the Renegades just celebrated their how manyth anniversary coming up there? So that's one team that's not on the list and doing alive and well. But the other teams, I don't think there's any significant attendance problems with these teams, that they're just walking away because of the economic structure. And
Well,
it's just outrageous.
Now, and a lot of people, as your friend did say to you, hey, it's a business. However, baseball enjoys the antitrust exemption. One of the reasons they do is precisely for the reasons you're bringing up, that they do some things that are loss leaders that may cost them money to bring baseball to the people. And I understand that the Congress is on the same side on this issue. They're going to look at the antitrust exemption.
Well, that could be fun to watch.
That could be fun to watch.
Now, as far as player development goes, they will still have that.
Oh, they still will. There's no, because I think it's only like 2 or 3% of the people ever make it to the majors anyway. But the question is, you're developing a fan base, you're involved in the community. It's why we give you this antitrust exemption. No?
Because a lot of these teams will go independent, yet is as economically difficult as it will be. And so a lot of these places will still have a baseball team.
Oh, yeah. The Boulders here in Rockland are looking forward to it if that happens. I think they'll do better.
Yeah, even though they're not totally affiliated. But the scouts will be sitting there. And one of the fun people that I interviewed in a trip 2 years ago down in the Appalachian League at Kingsport, Tennessee, that was, the Kingsport Mets, it was a lady. She was in her mid-20s, and she was a scout. And to talk to her was very interesting, the angle of, a female scout, but also her passion and love for baseball and, watching these guys go up and what they look for and the chances of them playing. I'd be interested to hear her perspective.
What was she looking for, by the way? Bat speed, things like that.
Oh, yeah. The things that you don't normally think about. And as she put it, a knowledge of the game, a game smart, knows how to play the game. And it's something that I've often said to young basketball players, that there's going to be guys who can dunk, there's guys who can shoot, guys who can dribble right around you with their legs, but that they understand the game.
Yeah.
And that's true in baseball as well.
That's probably true in every sport. We're going to take it down another level, up a level, really. We'll talk about salaries later. What I've always been miffed at is AAA players who go up and down between the majors, et cetera, filling in. They ought to be paid a lot better for reasons that aren't clear to me. But I guess it's economics. Minor league hockey is more popular than minor league baseball, believe it or not, in the markets that it has. You've got teams like out in San Diego or in Hershey that routinely draw 7,000, 8,000 people. Routinely.
Right, but it's cold out, so they
right. No, but my point is the minimum salary in the American Hockey League, its AAA league, is like $60,000. The average salary is like $90,000. Some guys make $200 or $300. So there's a living to be made so that the veteran players there who are leading the young players have a career. But baseball treats AAA like, make $25,000 and you're playing AAA baseball. I mean, that's something's just wrong. Anyway, what's your take on this Houston cheating scandal? And do you think that baseball probably knows about it and is doing the usual head in the sand nonsense like they did with PEDs?
Well, by the way, I've gone to minor league hockey too. I'm on
I know. Yeah,
I'm on a pilgrimage to try to do the entire AHL.
Well, that's easy to do if you go up. If you go up Route 17, you can catch Binghamton. You can catch Syracuse, Rochester,
and then
all the
Utica,
way to
Buffalo.
Utica,
and then Buffalo is the Sabres. Elmira is the EC.
The Jackals.
Yes. Been there, done that. I don't want to say they all do it, but
of course they all do it.
that they got caught. And now they have to pay the price of whatever Major League Baseball decides is going to be the sanction.
Okay. Now, and it brings us to the next thing. And now you're going to combine, if you would please, your journalistic abilities and your honest, well, you would already be honest about it, but what has always bothered me about the PED thing and why I'm one of the few people that thinks everybody ought to go in the hall that's got the numbers is when that investigation was done by Mr. Mitchell, part of the deal they made was not to out 140 or so other ball players that they knew were doing PEDs, and that probably wasn't even all of them. How can you keep a guy out of the hall when you've already given 140 others a free pass who may well be in the hall?
That is a conundrum, that they were not outed. Yet at the same time, when someone is the poster child, and then the poster child, I don't know if they actually came out and admitted it, and then gets this honor of a plaque in the shrine, what are you saying to the fans? And what are you saying to other ball players? That, well, time has gone on. It's okay. Don't think so.
Okay. So you're okay with them leaving them out of the hall. But
Yeah.
what about the guys that didn't start doing it till later in their careers? Like a Clemens. He clearly was the best pitcher of his era. Well, arguably. It's always arguable. But
Well, that we know he was doing it later in his career. And, again, I've never met the gentleman, but kind of the arrogance that I will do this and get away with it.
Well, you certainly saw that with Alex Rodriguez, and he even
Sure.
sued baseball. Now, why does
Sure.
Alex get
Yeah.
such a pass to be on TV and everything else?
Well,
I know he's. I read Torrey's book, and even though he had his beefs with Alex, he said he's one of the hardest working people in baseball who really understood the game. I get that, but why does he get such favored treatment and others don't?
I think broadcasting and the Hall of Fame are two different issues. He has a good camera presence. He's articulate. He has a fan base. That's why they have him on. But when it comes to the Hall, I don't know about that. Now, there's the idea of, let them sit out 10 years and let the Veterans Committee vote them in. Maybe that's, if the veterans vote him in, then maybe that's the solution.
Have the standards changed over the years? Is it
think
easier
so.
now?
Well, I don't know if it's easier, but I will be the first to admit that I don't follow Major League Baseball as closely as a lot of folks do. I'm not a stats guy, and occasionally when you're in a place where one of these debates comes up, I am a little lost. I just kind of keep quiet. So when you see the ballot of the people who are on it, I got to admit, there's a couple on there. I go, who? But because we're in New York, we tend to focus on the New York teams, and when a visiting team comes in, then we give them some attention.
Well, again, this speaks to the notion that it is a business. In general, where do you think baseball's headed with the juiced ball? Do you think the ball was tightly wound on purpose?
Again, I wasn't in the factory to see them do it. I don't know. The idea of souping up a ball in order to make the game more exciting, I don't know if that's something they would intentionally do.
Okay, but why is the game, that ball, tighter? Because I've pitched, and unless you have good seams, it's hard to throw a breaking ball. It's harder, but not in the minors.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's what when we used to play in the seminary.
Oh, okay, well,
they didn't give us very good balls to play with, and so therefore, the concept of tight stitching and stuff, it was just like throw the thing.
Yeah, throw the thing and play and
let
hit the ball.
everybody
9:42. All right, let's move on to your other love. I didn't realize that football was in the lexicon for you.
Small college football, not the big. Although I did go to the Orange Bowl last year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one of my little Greyhound bus trips, and down and back, and then I've seen all the major bowls then except the Fiesta Bowl. So that's big time football. And of course, I went to Georgia for my master's, Minnesota for my PhD, and saw all of the Big Ten and a lot of the SEC. So that's one of my hobbies. And plus, every year, I try to go to another big-time football program, some way getting down there.
Mm-hmm.
I went to Clemson last year because my great mentor, Wally Eberhardt, my professor at Georgia, passed away. I went to his memorial service at Athens. No game there that weekend. However, I had gone a couple of times, to see Wally, and saw a couple of SEC games there since I had graduated. And so I went to Clemson, and, I loved just going to these places where there's just craziness and all the tailgating.
It's really big, isn't it?
It's
college football.
It's a
Chris
religion.
is a football guy. Put on your stuff, Chris. Enjoy the professor. We're talking football now.
My sister went to the University of Tennessee for a year.
Oh, the Vols.
And we went to a game, and I swear that Saturday, everyone, like the waitresses at IHOP, the bank tellers, everyone is wearing orange that day in the entire town. It sweeps up the entire town. On game days with these, in these cities where college football is everything.
It really is, isn't it? Well, you know what? If I may just make an allusion to hockey here, in Minnesota, high school hockey is monstrous. They sell out buildings.
They sell out the NHL building.
Yeah,
for some of those
for
tournaments.
their hockey tournament there.
Yeah, well, that's what I was there for. Gopher hockey.
You were there for the
And,
Gophers, so the
and
Badgers.
they had a deal where students could go in for nothing after the first period and take any empty seat. So guess what I did?
Yeah,
And they
wow.
actually had cheerleaders. They had ladies, and figure skaters out on the ice between quarters. A lady in my class was one of the cheerleaders. Excellent skater.
I wouldn't watch that.
And she, she and her friends went out and they would cheer, and then they put the little rubber pads on the blades and then go up into the aisles.
Yes.
And then cheer in the aisles. So Gopher hockey was just as big as Gopher basketball, and high school too.
Mhm.
That was great. Even going to some of these games. And the ladies, I saw the first women's championship. It wasn't called the Frozen Four yet.
Mhm.
It was Minnesota, and a lady was in the class and she said, "Oh, you got to come." And they even had little trading cards. They still have them. And then some of those went on to that first Olympic team. So hockey was really big there.
Well, if you lived in Canada, well, how Canada, they can't afford all the major league teams. That's why they only have 4, I guess it is, 3 or 4. But they have, and they don't even have American League teams. They have something called junior hockey. And as you're well aware of now, junior hockey, for all intent and purposes, semi-pro. It's the best young players in Canada, and they're drafted out of something called midget. And they manage. It's funded by them. I mean, they manage to make a profit or at least break even in cities as small as Medicine Hat and so forth. I'm hoping that minor league baseball can recover in that way and do those kinds of things, some semblance of that. Have you ever followed, since you're such, I want to go back to baseball. There are these semi-pro leagues that play every summer, like up in New England. The Cape Cod League, I understand, is supposed to be terrific.
Been there, done that.
I thought you did. This is great, Chris. And is it as good as they say?
Couple years ago, collegiate bat league, that the college teams use aluminum bats. So they're wooden league, so the scouts can see these guys playing with a wooden bat. So there was one in New York I went to, even a playoff game up in Mohawk, driving 2 hours from Kingston to this playoff game. And then in Saugerties, New York, there was a team there. Albany, there was a team. And then I went up to the Cape Cod League because when I bought my Camaro a couple years ago from a Rhode Island dealer, they gave you the 2 free oil changes. So I'm like, what the heck? I'll drive a free oil change. And as soon as I got out of there, I headed up to Cape Cod. So I saw, the teams, 2 teams, kind of like high school baseball stadiums, but, a little bigger. And everybody in the town out in the fan base and the host families and everything. It was just this great little town spirit that they had.
And what was the level of play?
Oh, it was the good ones. It was the guys that were highly scouted and recruited to play on these teams. They were from the big schools. A few of the smaller schools that had strong baseball programs. But when you look at the list of guys who played in that league who are today in professional baseball and some Hall of Famers, you're seeing future stars.
Why do you think it is that I lost my train of thought, and that happens every once in a while, but so it gives me a chance to research.
I do it right in the middle of class.
Yeah, we do. We're talking with Professor Jack Breslin, and as part of our entrance into the holidays, we're talking sports and baseball. Yes, why do you think it is college baseball has never really caught on? I know there's some schools, but it's never really caught on.
I think it's overshadowed by a lot of the more popular revenue sports. I mean, like even at Iona, our team went to the MAC championships a few years ago, but traditionally, it's a smaller tournament and they don't go normally, and so they really don't have the fan base and the interest. But I go regularly to the softball games and the baseball games, and there's a pretty good following.
Yeah, it's a very good.
But I've gone to the College World Series out in Omaha, and to see the fan base there.
Wow. Well, then it's there.
Don't tell them it's not popular.
Oh.
And that was the year that Rice University won the national
R.A.
championship.
Dickey came out of college baseball.
And,
a lot of guys.
Houston Street, I saw him pitch for Texas that year, and he lost. And the women's college softball World Series, I went to that a few years ago. And after that, I said, well, I want to go to some of these campus games. So last summer, I went down to Gainesville and Tallahassee and saw games at Florida State and Florida. And, sold out. Absolutely sold out. And just rabid fans of supporting their Gators.
You know what's interesting? A lot of great college pitchers that you'll read about or watch, they throw 95 miles an hour, and they don't even get a look at the majors. It's interesting. Why not? I'd love to talk to a scout about that. That's just fascinating stuff to me. Now, you've been to I'm almost afraid to ask, what's your favorite minor league ballpark in all the ones you've been to?
Well, I think that that one with the Frederick Keys, I went back there a few years later, and I was a little disappointed. It wasn't run down, but it looked a little older. That architecture with the brick and the overlay, and then the walled-in suites, luxury boxes, and the berm, the grass berm, the back where the families can go. That has been copied by so many stadiums
everybody.
that you can't really tell the difference of where they are. Scenery-wise, I would say that some of the ones out west, like Everett, Washington, I went to this year, having the Cascades in the background, is very beautiful. And the fan base at a lot of these places, like down Grenville, South Carolina this year, these people adopted me in the fans.
Well, have you ever been to I haven't been there, but I've read a lot about the ballpark in Albuquerque. You can park on the level.
Not yet. The Isotopes,
but I heard it's supposed to be good.
Yeah, a little harder to get to, but they're certainly on the list because Tommy Lasorda was the manager of the Albuquerque team a long time ago.
I did not know that.
That's why I'm here.
You've been to I'm sure you've been to Trenton. It's
a
nice
course,
ballpark.
Trenton, but that's one that kind of is my craw, that the Yankees made the deal with the city of Norwich in the state of Connecticut for that new stadium. And how long did they stay before Trenton put another little worm in front of them, a little herring, and said, come on down here? And that stadium was empty for a couple of years.
It was a nice stadium in Bridgeport, too, where they had the independent team. That's
right.
Too bad
Another
they
deal,
folded.
build the stadium and, have the team. And that is what could happen with a lot of these minor league parks now if these guys pull out. But with Norwich, you gotta wonder what they were thinking where they put the park. It's out in the middle of an industrial park.
Oh my!
You gotta have it down like Trenton does, bound by the river, where there's places to eat and so forth. And even some major league parks that I've been to. Well, is there a restaurant around here I can get something to eat
and
before the game?
every once in a while there are these minor league wonderkins. For example, there's the Somerset Patriots play out in Central Jersey. They're
been there.
Independent team. They got 7,000-8,000 people there every
right
night.
on a
the
Saturday
place sells
night.
out.
I had to buy. Well, luckily I didn't have to buy the ticket. Somebody said you need a single, and I was lucky to get in.
Now, there's a team. It used to be 3 levels down. Then it was 2 levels down. And now they finally went to AAA. I don't know. There's a team in hockey called the Colorado Eagles. Okay, minor league team. It was 3 levels down. Sold out every game. Every game. Now, that has to be, of course, it's got to be the fan base, but there has to be something to the way the place is run.
Yeah.
It's got to be.
All right, the Frederick Keys, for example.
Yeah.
They are only 45 minutes away from Baltimore, Camden Yards. And the Hagerstown Suns manages to keep a team, very historic park. Willie Mays was assaulted there, on account of his race.
Well, that's an interesting
years before, and they welcomed him back. And when he finally said, all right, I'll come back, and they had a day for him way a long time ago. So it's this old ballpark. They always managed to keep a team somehow. And even when they were losing one team, I'm sitting in the stands, and who's sitting next to me but the owner, and his wife's got out the Myrtle Beach time. They're looking to move there, and they wound up getting a team from there. So with that, you all have this large fan base that can't afford a major league ballpark. So with the Keys, you would bring the family of 4, and you'd bring a sheet or something, and the wife and the husband sit there and have a couple of beers, and meanwhile the kids run around and go crazy, and they haven't even spent $30 on admission.
Wow.
And then, in some of them you can bring your own food in,
Mm-hmm.
and the refreshments and so forth is not very expensive at all. So that is why Major League Baseball is out of the price range of so many middle class fans, and that includes me. That there was a time that I went to 12 games a year. Now I'm lucky if I do two Mets and two Yankees.
I don't even bother trying anymore. The last time I went to a Major League Baseball game, I was, and because now the way they build the stands, they don't fade back; they go up.
Yeah,
and I was upstairs at Citi Field. I'm closer to Yonkers now than I was to the ball to the field.
Yeah, as I looked at the playoff tickets this time. And as one of my colleagues said, you want to pay that to look at ants?
Well, yeah.
And I said, you got a point. So for the first time, there was a playoff ticket there. I did not buy it. I was not going to pay $250 to look at ants.
It's not worth it. And as much as I love hockey, I mean, look, I do try and go to a couple of games a year. But I bought my grandson 6 chicken wings, $12. Good, whoa.
Or they would go to a game where they're at $15 for a beer. Come on.
Yeah, really. But that's what they do. But, you can go right up to Bridgeport, get AAA hockey for 1/6 the money.
Right. I have a great relationship with the Sound Tigers from my sports journalism class.
I could say more.
That we go up and cover it. So this semester, I'm back teaching sports journalism. We go to the Mets, where they let us come to the press conference and go on the field and interview a player.
Can we go back to the Sound Tigers again?
The Sound Tigers, sure. We go, and the same deal. We go watch the game, and a lot of times I have to explain the game to them. And then we go down to the locker room, and they give us a couple of players to interview. There, I can't put them on deadline because we don't have a workroom.
Mm-hmm.
But with the Mets, there is some room upstairs in the press box that after they do the post game, then they have to go back up and they have to write the story.
Where are the seats when you're at the game? At the press box? Are you kids in the press box? Chris, guess who's going to a Sound Tigers game? We are.
Plenty of room.
Well,
that's what we're up where the announcers are in
fine.
that row there. A couple of times you got kind of duck down to see what's going on because of the low roof.
There's an overhead.
But
yeah.
we are up there.
I go up there every chance I get.
Yeah.
And one of the greatest places, and it's gone now, Hershey Park Arena. I don't know if you've ever been there.
Been there.
It was the world's single largest beamless concrete structure.
Yeah, where Will Chamberlain scored his 100 points.
Yes, well, you got it. And now they still kept it because they have like high school hockey there and stuff, and then they built a new Giants arena.
Yeah, one night I went to a hockey game there, and the guy goes, it was right before Christmas, and so people were there to see the lights.
Yeah.
And I'm going in, and the guy goes, I go, hockey? Oh, okay, that way.
Yeah, that way. Yeah, because right next door is that theme park. In fact, it's in the midst
yeah.
of it, and they have the Christmas Village. I've been there too. My daughter's first hockey game was spent. In fact, you know how I remember it? I took her first professional game was the night the the Colts snuck out of Baltimore because we got stuck in a big snowstorm down in Hershey, and I took her to see the Baltimore Skipjacks, coincidentally.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And we was snowed like mad. Now, for her first reaction, we sat right by the glass. I always do that. The puck hit the boards, and she said, "They make a racket when they smack it."
Oh!
I just thought that was pretty cool.
Now, speaking of smack it, we forgot the Division Double. Its division championship division has its games. That's would be the league that Iona was in way back when. We don't have football anymore. Going up to Albany to see them play Central Connecticut.
Were you disappointed when the school lost its football?
Yes.
It was a money thing, right?
Well, we just didn't have the fan base. I mean, there were times that there were more visiting fans than there were ours.
How's the basketball team doing, Phil? We got a guy used to work with.
We're
the
2-2.
No, but I mean the fan base. I mean,
excellent.
That's
good. We
okay.
renovated the facility, and a lot of people who come are going to be really amazed at what was done to upgrade the facility, and I think it's more conducive to television now that we have the 4 walls of stands, rather than no fans behind the baskets.
Right.
We have, the arena effect now that I'm sure ESPN will love.
I'm going to let you finish the thing, but I'm going to give you a little known fact about me. I was an NCAA scorer when I was young.
Yeah, I keep score.
No, but I used to be paid to.
No.
Yeah.
My daddy was a dear accountant, but he wondered where I came from because I basically can't add.
Well, I can't
because
add
I have a learning disability that was never properly treated or diagnosed of dyslexia. And so when I was a bank teller, I would transpose numbers.
I have hands dyslexia. I can't type. If I type quickly, my right hand and my left hand get confused.
Well, maybe that was my problem too.
Yeah, you never know. All right, so you were talking about, before we send you on your way, the Division II.
Yeah, then Division II. Now, I've been doing this for like 15 years, and last year even went to 2 games. Went to the championship of Division III down in Salem, Virginia, and froze. And this year, I'm going to take the old bussy to a little town outside Houston, Texas, Shenandoah, Texas, to see Division III again.
All right.
So we're going to do Albany this weekend. I have a friend up at Slippery Rock University that they're in it, and I said, well, driving up there on Thanksgiving weekend, I love you and I love the team, but
no.
Because I have this problem. When I see a stadium, I have to go back and see a game.
Yes.
So I'll get back to Slippery Rock. And then there's another one, Mount Union in Alliance, Ohio, that has dominated Division III. Love to see a game there, but that's a little bit of a ride,
Do you like the NFL?
If you give me a free ticket.
Oh, free ticket. You a Jet fan or a Giant fan?
Well, I'm kind of by team. I like both. But we have a good relationship with the Giants as well. Pat Hanlon, the PR
Chris,
guy.
We haven't been to any. We never went to these games on the arm with him here.
He sometimes helped. Later in the season, he has helped some of our broadcast students by bringing them over there. I've also gone over to cover a couple of games to use in class. So many thanks to Pat Hanlon at the Giants for supporting our journalism program over the years.
Well, Professor Breslin, this has been fun talking sports as we head into the holiday. You do enjoy yourself. Have a wonderful holiday. Thank you for all your contributions to the program, and we'll see you again next week.
Okay.
We're going to do the traffic one more time. Professor Jack Breslin, mass communications, ethics, and minor league and college sports, a real expert. It's time, before we go, one more crack at the weather. Notice I didn't say traffic, Chris. You are on.
Actually, you did say traffic. And then you said weather. So you corrected yourself. But
take the damn thing.
Semantics. It is 47 degrees here in New Rochelle. It will get up to around 60. Sunny throughout the day. Tonight, clear, low, highs in the low 40s. Tomorrow, scattered showers. Highs in the mid-50s. Thanksgiving, sun and clouds, 48. Friday, Black Friday, will be sunny in the low 40s. Weather is brought to you exclusively by United Hebrew of New Rochelle. Voted one of America's best rehabilitation and senior care campuses. It's right here in New Rochelle. Visit uhgc.com. And I'm Chris Conway for Radio Westchester.
Thank you very much, Chris. Another great job today. We have some thanks to give our supporters of the program today. The United Hebrew of New Rochelle, top-rated campus of senior care. Visit uhgc.com. Plug in virtual reality aging issues management, the law firm of Pena and Kahn. And don't forget, tomorrow we'll have this week's football picks. They're brought to you by Dominic's Fine Cigars, licensed retailer with a big selection, including Arturo Fuente, Padrons, and more. Dominic's Fine Cigars, located at 204 Boston Post Road in Larchmont. We want to thank our guests today, of course, Mike Edelman, Mike Duffy, Delphine Husler from the Yonkers Insider, A.J. Woodson from Black Westchester Magazine, of course, Jack Breslin, and the callers today, all energetic and interesting. Vince from Mount Vernon, Vince from New Rochelle, Anthony and Tom from Pelham. Thank you very much. Also want to thank the people that wrote in today, particularly the Golden Girls in Harrison, who called me a silver fox, Professor. And we heard from Alice in Sleepy Hollow. Yes, I have a gift of gab. My grandmother did say I was vaccinated with a phonograph. And Cecil, after all these years, Manny, how do you stay fair and balanced broadcaster? It ain't easy, my friend. And Chris, when is the Cape coming? On your way home, stop at a bakery. Thanks, everybody. It's been a hoot. We'll see you tomorrow. And we'll have a little bit of fun with our pre-Thanksgiving broadcast. I'm Bob Marrone. You've been listening to Mornings with Bob Marrone here on Radio Westchester. We are the station at the New Rochelle train station. Have a great day.